I'd like to convene the meeting of the Peabody City Council dated February 14th, 2019. This meeting is being televised live on cable channel 9 and is being taped by Peabody Access Television and is also being recorded by our City Council stenographer. Please join me in a moment of silence. All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
Mr. President, if I may, I'd like to acknowledge a couple of Peabody's finest Boy Scouts that are in attendance from Troop 119.
You certainly may.
They're right over my shoulder here. There's Aiden and Eric. Welcome to Peabody City Council meeting. Thank you, Mr. President.
I'd like to move to item 4A on the agenda. Clerk will read the notice? No.
Yeah,
Councilman Matsoulis.
Mr. Chairman, we have a late communications. I'd like to receive it. Item 8C, 80. Motion
All in
is,
favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
that is a withdrawal letter from Attorney Kelty on this issue. So I'd like to approve the withdrawal and go to the next issue. Thank you.
All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. If there's no concerns about it, I'd like to defer and go out of order for His Honor the Mayor to item 7F momentarily. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, good evening, Council. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. As I've spoken in the past, we're very fortunate in the city to have a number of people who are willing to volunteer on some extremely important boards and commissions that make important decisions for the city of Peabody. Planning Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, Conservation, a number of city boards, and it's always wonderful to have people that care deeply about the city that want to volunteer to help lend their expertise and their opinions and their time and effort to make sure our city is successful doing the things we need to do, and a great deal of work takes place on these boards. I am here in front of you today for two appointments. One is to the Cable Commission, Mr. Ross Richardson. I think many of you know Ross, a longtime Peabody resident. He was unable to be here today, but he's volunteered to serve on the Cable Commission. And we actually are still a couple of people shy on the Cable Commission. If you know anybody, we're looking for a couple of alternates. But I think Mr. Richardson would be an excellent addition. I know you have his resume with you, but he would be an excellent addition to the Cable Commission to continue the important work that takes place there. And then also today we have the Conservation Commission, Michael Vivaldi. Michael is a new resident of the city of Peabody. He's a current planner for the city of Everett. I've got the opportunity to meet him, very impressed with his background and his willingness to want to work for the city and help in this way, lend his expertise, which is very valuable. He has a great background, again, serving as a city planner in Everett, and wants to help the city of Peabody as well. He is here today. Michael is here, and I put forward their two names as appointments for the city of Peabody, Ross Richardson for the Cable Commission and Michael Vivaldi for the Conservation Commission. Travis has been on the board. He would just be moved up to a full member, and then Michael would move in to be the alternate member.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Vivaldi, would you like to say a few words, or you don't need to? But welcome to Peabody and welcome to the Conservation Commission. If approved, roll call vote. Can I get a motion? I'm sorry.
Motion to approve mayor's appointments. So moved.
Roll call vote.
Councilors Matsoulis.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasla.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gravel.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Motion carries 11 to 1.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mr. President.
Next on the agenda, item 4B. Clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as a special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, February 14, 2019, at 7:30 p.m. in the Franco Wiggin Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. On the application from Nutri LLC, 3 Bourbon Street, Peabody, Mass. For a special permit seeking to utilize the property as a commercial kitchen to allow for food processing on-site at 23 Upton Street, Peabody, Mass. Is filed in accordance with sections 4.2.6, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. Peabody City Council. Councilor John G. Turco, City Council President.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is John Kelty, and I'm an attorney. I have law offices here at 40 Lowell Street in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I appear on behalf of Nutra LLC. Nutra LLC is a LLC owned and operated by Angelo Perina. Angelo is one of the owners of Toscana Restaurant here in Peabody, Mass. Several years ago, they began Nutra LLC, which is a dietary and healthy diet enterprise. They do prepared meals. They had been operating out of Toscana's restaurant as both Toscana's business increased and as Nutri's had increased in business. They were able to move, relocate, and find another place in West Peabody in which they could operate. That will soon be unavailable, and they, in fact, have outgrown that site as well. And we're proposing to, my clients are proposing to buy the building at 23 Upton. They will keep certain of the tenants that are located in there. In fact, you've already had a couple of tenants appear before the City Council asking for special permits. They've obtained them. We have prepared a plan which we filed with the City Council. That plan shows 35 parking spaces. We will, at such time as this permit is hopefully granted, we will endeavor to work out, we will rebuild the parking lot, my client will, creating those 35 spaces, and then we will endeavor to allocate those spaces to the various tenants in the building. We are of the opinion that there are more than an adequate, once that parking lot is built, there is more than adequate parking on the site, such that I know that some of the issues that had presented themselves earlier this year had to do with parking on the street, et cetera, and we will be able to rectify that situation completely. We have missives, responses from Public Services and the Board of Health. We're more than happy to comply with them, and they could certainly be added as a condition to our special permit if indeed it is granted. One of the interesting things about this project proposal is I kind of personally view it as kind of a dream come true for Councilor Matsoulis, in as much as we finally have a proposal being presented to Councilor Matsoulis that represents kind of a live-work situation. Over half of the people that cook, that are line chefs and the like in this particular enterprise live in Ward 3. And some will be able to actually walk to work, and others will, of course, bring cars. But I'm happy to say that most of the people that are employed by this particular LLC do live in Ward 3, and we're happy to say that it'll make for kind of an easy transition for those folks, and it will certainly go to the issue of assisting with the parking. Well, I think that's, I was asked to keep it short and sweet, and I will. Thank Thank you very much. My client is here this evening with me. He took a break from Toscana, but he's got to get back up there because it's Valentine's Day and he's got a big crowd up there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Attorney Kelty. Is there anybody in the audience here to speak in favor of this petition? Anybody here to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience to speak in opposition to this petition? With that, Councilor Mitsoulas.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Councilor Kelty put me in a position where I can't refuse him because he said he's put my neighborhood to work, so, good job, Jack. I'm very familiar with this, and councilors, just so you'll know this, I always give you a little history of the building. This was the old tannery. It was the Victory leather factory. When I was a kid growing up, there was a very active leather factory. And over the years, it has changed its use. And as we predicted over time, these factories, as long as business comes back, these factories will get full, and that's what's happening today. All the leather factories, all the ones that are still around, maybe need a little work to fix the buildings up a little bit, but they're all getting full, and they're employing people, and they're keeping our neighborhood affordable for the people that live in that neighborhood. And that's why I welcome this business coming into the neighborhood, and mainly for that one reason: it's going to keep my neighborhood working. And as far as concerns, I think we have a concern from the health department, but as the councilor said, that's going to have to be addressed before they get their permitting anyway. So, there was an issue that was brought up about working 5 o'clock in the morning. That site is considered an industrial park, and they work all hours of the night there, so I don't see that as an issue. And they're going to be working inside mainly and mostly anyways. And the parking concern, you've addressed that also, so I really don't have any further questions, councilors, or comments. Councilors, jump in if you choose to. Thank you.
Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to either Jim or Jack, if I'm at the Peabody House and looking down Upton Street, is it the whole building to the left?
Yes, it's directly straight ahead, crossover Wallace, and it's that building right there.
So it's on the corner of Wallace and Upton, starts there and
Right.
goes down
Yes.
Upton. Currently, is there, or was there some
There are 3 or
automotive-
4 tenants there currently. There are a couple of auto body, there's an auto detailer.
Yeah.
You just gave a permit to another, I want you to shut your microphone off. But but yes, those are the current tenants. There is one tenant that we're uncertain whether they're going to return. We will see as we go forward. And where my client is taking essentially the entire second floor, where that was vacated by a party some months ago.
Thank you. And so 35 parking spots? Is that what?
There are 35, yes.
And approximately how many employees?
We have suggested, right now, there's probably only about 10. However, we expect that eventually there will be 20 over 2 shifts.
Like Councilor Mitsoulas said, I think it's a great use of the space. It's being progressive and looking to the future for good tax revenue and good employment situation. So I'm in support of this. Thank you.
Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Councilor Kelty. Will there be a dumpster on the premises?
The dumpster will be located within the parking lot if it is even out of doors. Right now, my client is considering all of those facilities being indoors.
Okay. If there is, if there could just be an order of conditions just to follow. I know we're starting to really try to manage our pest control, and that's held through the health department. So I know that you already mentioned earlier that you would follow the health department's recommendation as far as requirements. One of the other requirements may be the pest control permit. So just so you're aware.
We're happy to do that. And if it ends up that the dumpster is outdoors, we're happy to accept a condition that said it needs to be enclosed.
And the only other question I had regarding this petition was where it said food supplies and package material, and it said type of indoor-outdoor storage. You're trying to contain your food storage indoors for the
Yes, it'll be entirely in any of those supplies that are being delivered to the premises would also be delivered indoors.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Council Matsoulis.
Motion to close the public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, any opposed, it's a vote.
What's that? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to approve the special permit for Nutri LLC doing business at 23 Upton Street for the purpose of, to utilize the property as a commercial kitchen to allow for food processing on the site. And as a condition, also, Mr. Chairman, that any trash or dumpster out there be fenced in. So moved.
On the motion, roll call vote. On the motion, Council McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the motion, through you to Councilor Matsoulis, I think Attorney Kelty said that they'd be very happy to accept the conditions specified in the inputs from DPS and Health. Would you be amenable to adding those two?
Absolutely. That goes along with this, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Councilor Matsoulis. Thank you, Mr. President.
On the motion, roll call vote.
Councilors Matsoulis.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gravel. Yes. Turco.
Yes.
Motion carries 11 to nothing.
Thank you, councilors, and happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. I'd like to move to item 4C on the agenda. The clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as a special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, February 14, 2019, at 7:30 p.m. in the Wiggin Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. On the application from Family Entertainment Group, LLC, DBA, in the game, 535 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., seeking to install an electronic message board affixed to the building at the entrance to the In the Game Entertainment Complex at said 535 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. As filed in accordance with Section 6.1, 11.4.8, and 15.7 of the Peabody Zoning Ordinance. Peabody City Council, Councilor John G. Turco, City Council President.
Can the petitioner please approach the podium? Is there a petitioner? Please state your name and address for the record.
Raymond Smith, Director of Business for Family Entertainment Group, 847 Red Wing Drive, Geneva, Illinois.
Thank you. If you could just give us a brief description of what you'd like to do.
Sure. So as part of the new building we're putting up, our intention is to erect and install a more of an architectural element that has a sign component. So the front face of the structure is going to be a full-color EMC. It'll be approximately 20 inches wide by the full height and width of the frame. We've used this installation, and it's a signature piece at all of our locations for our In the Game brand. This will be the fourth installation of this, we call it our portal, at our In the Game locations. And the purpose of the EMC will be just to announce food specials and to advertise the business and create that atmosphere and environment as you walk into our new building.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody in the audience here to speak in favor of this petition? Anybody in the audience in opposition to the petition? Seeing none, Councilor Sasslaw.
Thank you, Council President. So I met with Ray. They actually, he went before the ZBA a few weeks ago and was approved for the signage that they requested. We did put some, you'll notice actually, I like a motion to receive suspension rules, item 8Q.
All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
Thank you. There's a recommendation from the Community Development and Planning Department, and we actually, one of the items that came up was regarding the sign, the hours of use of the sign, and they've agreed to shut the sign off 2 hours after closing, so that Sunday through Thursday, it would go off at midnight, and we did not clarify what time it would go on. Is 10 a.m. acceptable to you? So it would be off from midnight to 10 a.m., Sunday through Thursday?
That's fine.
And then Friday to Saturday, it would go off at 2 a.m. I figured you might want to go an hour early because some of the birthday parties start a little bit early, so 9 a.m. on the weekends?
Correct, but the way the sign works, during the daylight hours, it doesn't have a huge visual impact, you know, because it's kind of, the sun kind of drowns it out.
Sure. And then, so that would be part of the special conditions on the special permit. And the other condition on the special permit I discussed with Ray was that there would be no advertising of any other outside businesses, strictly for in-the-game advertising only. So I've looked at the renderings. I'm comfortable with everything. I'm going to support it, and at this point in time, I'll open up to any other questions from my fellow councils.
Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My one question is what's the expected distance of the illumination? I'm assuming the sign is not one that kind of faces back to your business. It's going to illuminate out. My thought process in this question is, you know, up across the way, how much visual impact will that illumination have?
Well, the lighting is adjustable, pardon me, but our expectation is that it would really be maintained for the clients to be in the parking lot area, because we've got the pylon sign, which is the purpose to draw it in. So we can, but if there's any, and we talked to Joel about this, we're going to be a good partner, so if there's any issues or complaints, we can dim things down as we utilize the sign.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. I just didn't know whether the illumination was going off a property or it was staying on. So thank you.
Councilor Manning Martin, did you have a question?
I do, thank you. So, and Council Sasslaw is helping me out here. I'm just trying to visualize where this sign is going. Is it attached to the building, and is it the big building that you just constructed, the new building?
That's correct. So it's going to be over the main doorway of the new building, the new in-the-game building, and it will be attached to the building. And so if you're looking at the building, you've got the blue portion, which is over the front door. It'll approximately span the width of the blue portion, and it'll go on an angle. It'll be 20 feet high at its highest point, and then it slopes down with the angle of the doorway down to 11 feet, and it'll be approximately 20 inches off the wall completely, in a series of 3 frames. It's 8 inches, 14 inches, and then 20 altogether with a maximum width of 20 inches.
Okay, so, and that, I'm getting a better visual then. So this is, as you drive into the parking lot, that's when you see the reader board, right? It's not out on the street, it's not distracting drivers, it's not a safety issue, it's not a quality of life issue for surrounding residents.
That's accurate.
And it's separate and distinct from your existing bonker sign that's there now, out on the street, correct?
Correct.
Very good, thank you so much.
No other comments, Councilor Sasslaw.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Sasslaw.
And just before we take the formal vote, I'll just give a little plug. People asking, the grand opening is going to be Friday, March 15th. Is that correct, Ray?
So we're going to have a soft opening, I believe, on the 10th. And then we're going to have a series of opening events, the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th, correct?
Great, welcome to Peabody, thank you.
And we're very excited, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion on the application from Family Entertainment Group, LLC DBA In the Game, 535 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass, seeking to install an electronic message board affixed to the building at the entrance to the In the Game Entertainment Complex at said 535 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass, is filed in accordance with Section 6.1, 11.4.8, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance, with the two special conditions that the sign will be dark from Sunday to Thursday from midnight till 10 a.m. and Friday to Saturday from 2 a.m. to 9 a.m. First condition. The second condition being that no other business will be allowed to advertise on that sign. So move.
Roll call vote.
Councilors Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Sasslaw,
Yes.
Charis,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Gravel,
Yes.
Sherko.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Item 4D on the agenda. Clerk will read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as a special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, February 14, 2019, at 7:30 p.m. in the Franklin Wiggin Auditorium, City Hall, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. On the application from Big Top Works LLP, 595 Madison Avenue, New York, New York, for a special permit / special event application seeking to use the northwest area of the North Shore Mall property near Prospect Street and Essex Lane next to the East Boston Savings Bank for performance and production space of Big Apple Circus, scheduled to operate between March 29th to May 12, 2019, with typical circus food and beverages, including beer, wine, and pre-mixed beverages at said 210 and Andover Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with sections 6.1, 6.12, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. Peabody City Council, Councilor John G. Turkle, City Council President.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Mr. President, my name is David Ankles. I practice law at 246 Andover Street here in Peabody, and I represent the applicant Big Top Works LLP, better known as the Big Apple Circus, in this request for a special permit pursuant to Section 6.12, General Attendance Events, for the purpose of allowing the circus to perform at the North Shore Mall in the area near Prospect Street and Essex Lane from April 4th to May 5th, 2019, as set out in the schedule which I have submitted, together with the application and in the information packets filed with the application and in the information supplied subsequent to them. I am here tonight with Mark Whiting, manager of the North Shore Mall, and Angelina Quevedo, the general manager of the circus, and Dr. Neil Kahanovitz, who is chairman of the board of Big Apple Circus. Initially, I'd like to state simply that we no longer request the permission to serve mixed drinks. We're going to limit our request to beer and wine. Having said that, I'd like to speak generally and briefly about the applicant. I know it's Valentine's Day and you'd rather be here someplace else. I know my wife has reminded me about that many times this week. She's here to watch me wish her a happy Valentine's Day. The Big Apple is first-class entertainment. It's performed for millions at Lincoln Center in New York, in Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and Boston for the past 40 years. I want to read to you a little blurb that a New York Times critic wrote of the most recent performance. The Big Apple Circus is in town, and a little more joy is spread upon the city. It is good-hearted and pleasure-minded. It is wholesome family entertainment. It is, in fact, world-class family entertainment. Other than New York City, Boston has hosted the Big Apple Circus more than any other city. It's been the mainstay of family entertainment every spring. Here in Peabody, the seating capacity for the Big Apple Circus will be approximately 1,650 people. The entire show itself is contained and occupies a space not to exceed 400 by 600 feet. It presents no wild or exotic animals, and all of the dogs and horses in the show have been rescued from shelters or auction facilities. They are not PETA certified. Security fences surround the circus in its entirety, and security personnel are on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, performance or no performance. Big Apple Circus supplies ample restroom facilities on site for its patrons that are maintained throughout the day by an on-site staff. Once customers are ticketed and enter the self-contained circus grounds, no one is able to leave and gain readmission, eliminating the need for any off-site restroom facilities. I could go on for some time about the shows provided for special needs children and adults, but time is short, and I must refer you to the community programs portion of the original filing package for details. But briefly, however, and as you may have heard, the Big Apple Circus is very, very inclusive. In 1987, the Big Apple Circus created Circus of the Senses, which is an enhanced version of the circus's annual Big Top production. It provides audience members who are blind, deaf, or have vision, hearing, or cognitive challenges with an exciting, multi-dimensional performing arts experience. There are Braille programs, and 5 interpreters are present, and touch sessions are conducted in the ring before and after performances. All of the special effects, all of the interpreters are paid for by the Big Apple Circus. In 2013, the Big Apple Circus collaborated with TDF Autism Initiative and experts from all angles of the spectrum to create the same magical experience in a comfortable, warm, accepting, and safe space for the entire family. This performance provides sensory adaptations to welcome ASD patrons and their families with open arms. There are modifications to sound and lighting, a professionally staffed calming area in the lobby, extra signage, volunteers with helping hands, fidgets, and earplugs. The circus has also produced 2 study guides. One is an educational journey covering all aspects of the circus. The other is Adventures in Scouting, a behind-the-scenes look at the hard work, engineering, science, and dedication involved with a merit badge to be earned. One of the fellows in my office heads up a troop in Danvers. As soon as he saw that the merit badges were available, I think he got on the phone and called everybody here in Peabody. And I'm told that both of the troops here in Peabody are fairly excited about coming here to the circus, as are the young men and women in Danvers. I was glad to hear that. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the statistics involved. There has been an awful lot of talk about what the circus isn't and what it is. The show basically is 1 hour and 48 minutes. Intermission is 15 minutes. Total runtime is 2 hours. Seating capacity with holds is 1,500 people. There are no games of chance, no mechanical rides, no pyrotechnics, no open flames. It is not a carnival. This is world-class entertainment. It has dazzled people in New York City. It's now in Washington, D.C. It goes from Washington, D.C. to Peabody and then on to Valley Forge in Pennsylvania. Again, it is not a carnival. There are no games of chance, no booths, nothing of that sort. The circus itself requires about 350 by 300 feet of clear, uninterrupted space. As you can tell from the plan that I submitted, it's going to be located along Prospect Street between the entrance where the lights are on Prospect Street and East Boston Savings Bank. Mark Whiting and I had the opportunity to go to East Boston Savings Bank and visit with the CEO, Dick Gavignano, a good friend of mine, and Dick was extremely supportive. He knows it's going to be a little bit of an intrusion. He knows it's going to be a little bit inconvenient for some of his employees, but he also indicated that he wants to sponsor a VIP night and that he might, in fact, make a contribution. He's a good neighbor, and we had a nice visit. My hope is that through the efforts of all of us involved, that we'll be able to provide him with adequate parking, alternate parking, and that we'll make it as small or as little as an inconvenience as possible for him and his employees. The shopping center is going to provide him with alternate parking. The circus itself has indicated that it would produce the signs necessary to direct people and to prohibit them from parking in the bank lot. And again, I think combined with our local police department and the security and signs and cooperation from the circus, that we'll be able to accommodate everybody from East Boston, and we thank them for their support. Talk about water supply. The circus will supply and pay for its own water. It can hook up to a hydrant. They have their own meters. They have backflow preventers. They're fully equipped to do that, but I believe what's going to happen is we're going to have water delivered and paid for by the circus independently of our system. Power. The Big Apple Circus is completely self-contained. It travels with 2 generators to supply power to the entire production. The show has a 2-part generator system with an emergency battery backup. It's about 500 kilowatts. It's self-contained. Decibel level is 80 to 85. That's about normal conversational English. We originally had it placed along Prospect Street, and Angelina was kind enough to work things around so that we moved it away and moved it closer to the shopping center, away from any residential area. If it shuts down, the backup generator goes on. The emergency lighting will remain running with the battery backup system during the switchover process. And I'm told the other day I met with a young man named Will from PBD-MLP, and he indicated that PMLP was available should we need any supplementary power or any assistance. They were ready, willing, and able to assist us if the need arose. Again, tremendous cooperation from the city of Peabody. The Big Apple, it arranges for its own sanitation. It has its own dumpsters. It'll do business with a local sanitation company. I mentioned the fact that they have their own portable restrooms, which will be serviced on a regular basis, daily basis, by both the local company and the people at the circus. They have multiple trash and recycling receptacles throughout the event and throughout the location. It continuously cleans throughout the entire production period to ensure that no trash remains on the ground. Trash cans are monitored and emptied throughout the event periods while open to the public. Immediately after each performance, all trash is swept up and disposed of into a dumpster after having been put through a recycling process. The local sanitation company will be contracted to supply the dumpsters. And again, Big Apple will place 2 on site, one for regular waste and one for animal waste. They have 2 bins for recycling, and due to the nature of the operation, you would expect that most people would buy their food products and take them immediately into the tent where they sit down to watch the production. They normally let their trash fall through the seating area. Big Apple cleans it up after each production. That's just the way it is, I guess, today. Soda and water are served in plastic bottles and cans. The staff will put those along with appropriate paper products into the recycled bins and transport them to an appropriate recycling facility or make arrangements with the dumpster company for their removal. Since Big Apple Circus provides family entertainment and attracts primarily families, in-house security has been sufficient to provide appropriate crowd control. Big Apple Circus Management handles all its security in-house. They have security stationed in the main public entrance areas, reception tent, inside the Big Top, and 2 roaming throughout the entire production. Their uniforms usually consist of Big Apple matching shirts and pants in the areas that they are assigned to. It's a low-key approach to security in order to maintain the atmosphere of family fun. If requested, the security team can wear uniforms and identify themselves as security. All security will be scheduled 1 hour before each performance and stay 30 minutes after the performance. Security personnel will be stationed both inside and outside the tent, as well as next to the ticket booth. Security personnel will have access to walkie-talkies for communication between themselves, in addition to cell phones that can be used to call additional personnel, as well as local police or fire if it becomes necessary. I've had the pleasure of working with Deputy Marty Cohen, Patrolman John Nelson, who has always been extremely helpful regarding these events and other community matters, and we've worked closely with Captain Scott Richards regarding traffic. I can tell you that Big Apple Circus is going to pay for and accept whatever security is required or recommended by our local police force. Initially, we've talked about 1 squad, 4 officers, maybe a squad leader. I don't know whether we're going to need extras regarding traffic, but I'm going to leave that to Captain Richards, who I hope will make a tremendous presentation to you tonight. He's prepared. We've spent quite a few hours together, a couple of hours on Wednesday, a couple of hours last week, and the cooperation that we have received has been outstanding. I couldn't ask for much more. I've presented you with a detailed plan in the package. It shows the location of the Big Top. It shows the location of the VIP tent, It shows locations of the generator, the animal tents. It shows where the parking is, and the parking that we have. There is a large open area to the westerly side of Barnes & Noble as you come in off of Prospect Street. That area from Barnes & Noble over to the entry roadway, if my memory serves me correctly, contains approximately 703 parking spaces. We don't expect 703 automobiles. We expect that there will be 2 to 3 people in every automobile. We expect that there'll be anywhere between 300 and 350 automobiles. We believe that the area in front of Shaw's, reserving plenty of space for Shaw's itself, and the area west of Barnes & Noble as it approaches the location of the tent will be more than sufficient. If you want more details relative to the availability of parking, I'm sure Mark Wiggin will be able to answer those questions for you. Prior to the show, I am told that we're going to block off that entryway from Prospect Street between the parking area and the big tent. We're going to have security and police officers there to prevent traffic from coming in, so that those people who come from the parking area to the tent are not put in harm's way. We will have barricades at either end. We will also have personnel there to enable any of the people working for East Boston Savings Bank to access their lot to the rear. We have also set aside in the area closest to East Boston, along that roadway, an area for disabled vehicles or disabled patrons. I think we've tried to cover almost every aspect of safety and parking that we could think of, and I think Officer Richards, Captain Richards, will address that. At this point in time, I go through all of the statistics with you. We have 25 performers, 2 box offices, 1 general manager's office. We have 4 people for tent crew, 9 for electrics and sound, 10 ushers and house managers. We have 12 people for concessions and managers, 3 maintenance, 2 grooms, 6 ring crew, 3 artistic managers, 1 director of programs, 2 operations managers, 4 tent crew people, 3 chefs, 8 musicians, 12 dogs, 7 horses, 11 ponies, and 1 mini pig. I don't know how many more, I don't know how much more I can tell you about the circus, other than the fact that they have agreed to the following conditions that Councilor Charest has asked us to place. They've asked us to state that the circus will assume all public safety costs. That's a no-brainer. There are no costs that this city is going to incur in connection with the circus. Any costs are going to be picked up by the circus and/or North Shore Mall. No costs whatsoever, despite what has gone on Facebook or what you've heard as far as rumors are concerned. There are going to be no costs to the city of Peabody. They've asked, Councilor Charest has asked us to agree that the chief of police or his designee determine the number of officers needed at all times for security and traffic. That, of course, is an acceptable condition. Councilor Charest has been concerned about rubbish. I've told you what we do with regard to recycling, picking up rubbish. The dumpsters, we're going to post some signs, hopefully, that will work at exits from the big top itself that says no food or beverage beyond this point. We'll have trash barrels there, and we hope that people will not take their trash with them outside of the tent. With that, I'd like to move on to Captain Richards, who has been gracious enough to put together a presentation for us and who has been extremely generous with his time. Your permission, Mr. President?
Thank you. Captain Richards. Captain, if you don't mind, could you just state your name and address for the record?
Captain Scott Richards, Peabody Police Department. Hopefully the technology works for us. You've all heard of death by PowerPoint, so this isn't very long. We'll go fairly quickly with this. Obviously, we've been asked to address any potential traffic issues or fears that were associated with the Big Apple Circus. We've taken a look at it, and I hope that what I'm going to discuss with you tonight allays any of those fears. The venue, and I don't want to reiterate a lot of what was already said, and I'll go fairly quickly. The venue holds 1,500 to 1,600 people. We, on average, believe that there's going to be 3 or more people per vehicle coming to this event. It's a family event, so you're not going to find individuals coming in cars by themselves. They're going to be coming with children and families, so it's probably going to be more than 3 people, but we're going worst case scenario here. So in that case, we can expect about 500 vehicles per show. The vehicles, and I'll show you a map afterwards, but the vehicles will be approaching the area from various directions. All these folks aren't going to be coming from Peabody. They're going to be coming from Reading, from Gloucester, from other places to the city of Peabody for this show. So they're going to be coming from different ports of entry into the mall property. And we'll show that on the map again in a few minutes. And then when they leave, they'll also be exiting in multiple different locations throughout the mall property. There are going to be some shows where there are buses transporting students to the shows, which will certainly cut down the number of cars that will be coming to those shows. If you have buses with 70 or 75 kids on them, that's going to cut down on the cars. Many folks are going to come and go from the mall itself. We anticipate, because this circus is at the North Shore Mall, that some folks are going to show up early, do some shopping in the mall, eat in the mall, and go over to the circus. And we hope that they do that afterwards as well. Go over to the mall and partake in the restaurants and the stores over at the mall afterwards. So not everybody's going to be on a blitz to get there all at the same time from the same place. It's all going to be dispersed throughout the area. As you can see, the circus itself, no, watch my pointer won't work now. The circus itself is that triangle, that red triangle there. There it is. By the East Boston Savings Bank. You can see the different routes that people are going to use to come in. They're going to be coming on 128 northbound, and they'll be circling around and using Andover Street, and either coming in here by the Container Store or coming in by Cross Street, or they're going to loop around and come in by North Shore Road and come in the backside of the mall to the parking area. People coming in from 128 southbound are going to get off on Andover Street, same thing, by the Container Store or Cross Street, and come in up here by the circus. They're going to be coming in here by Andover Street. Expect the same thing. This way here on Cross Street or Prospect Street, up and come in. And from Lowell Street westbound, they'll be coming down by Sue Chang's, coming up Prospect Street and entering the mall here. So you can see that people are going to be coming to this area from various parts, and they're not all going to be coming in at the same spot. We've already talked to Councilor Charest, and here on Cross Street, we're going to have signage up here so that people coming up Cross Street will actually enter the mall across from Long's Jewelers. So that'll keep a lot of this traffic from funneling all the way down to this area here. So we feel that the different ports of entry and exit for the circus are going to diffuse these cars significantly so they're not all coming from the same direction in the same place. We have several proposed police posts, and we can work on this and fine-tune this, but we expect to have an on-site supervisor there. We expect to have 2 officers inside the Big Top itself. We have an officer at Prospect Street at the entrance to the mall, so if traffic does back up at that intersection, the officer can clear it out. We'll have an officer inside the mall property where the road splits right inside that intersection. It's to funnel the cars towards the parking lot by Shaw's. We'll have a police officer in the parking lot in that roadway that Mr. Ankley said is going to be closed down, that crossing area from the parking lot over to the circus. There'll be a police officer there making sure that there's no traffic there and it's safe for the pedestrians to cross back and forth. There's been some concern about neighborhood traffic. We're going to be putting a police cruiser and an officer up in the neighborhood of Baldwin, Felton, and actually Richardson and Mount Pleasant as well, for about a half hour before the show and about a half hour after the show, to just make sure the cars aren't ripping through the neighborhood and speeding through the neighborhood. So we'll have a police presence up in that neighborhood. We feel, at least at this point, barring any further issues, that the police presence that we have here with the security on site from the circus itself will be adequate to deal with any issues that may pop up, traffic-wise or otherwise. Now there's been, well, here's the actual intersection I was talking about. So we'll have an officer here at Prospect at the entrance to the mall, right here. We'll have a police officer here directing the cars towards the parking lot. This is going to be closed off here and here for a time before the show and for a little while after the show, so the people that are parking over here can safely cross into the venue and get back out and get back to their cars. Once they're back out to their cars safely, this will be opened back up for that period of time between shows so the traffic can flow normally through here. So that should take care of that situation there. There's been concern about this surrounding neighborhood and some concerns. There was some requests to actually close these roads down to residents only. If you go by GPS and come in from West Peabody on Lowell Street, the GPS brings you down to Sue Chang's and will bring you up Prospect Street. It doesn't divert you up Baldwin Street. Same thing coming down Andover Street. So people coming in by GPS aren't going to be directed that way unless they have Waze.
Captain, ma'am, if you could, ma'am, just so we can get everything on record, could you just hold on? I'll open it up to you in a moment. Thank you very much.
All right. When I did the GPS, it didn't bring me that way, but if you have Waze and there is traffic issues, the Waze may send you that way. But generally, as a rule, the GPS doesn't, at least through my experience of having done it with the GPS. So we'll have a discussion on that because that was brought up several times about closing off these streets to residents only. There was a proposed checkpoint for residents only at Baldwin at Lowell, Pleasant at Andover, and Felton at Prospect Street. Everybody has to understand that typically the police only close roads under the following conditions. One is under a public safety emergency. And I know the red's a little bit difficult to read, but those motor vehicle crashes, structure fires, that sort of thing. Or for road construction, milling, paving, utility work. And the last time we would close a road would be the result of a road closure permit. And that would be for events like the International Festival, the USGA golf tournament that we had, any scheduled event that's going to have some public safety issues attached to the traffic. We'll get a road closure permit through the council to be able to close those roads. Under this condition, the circus doesn't meet any of these criteria, so the closing the road doesn't meet this criteria to do so. And further on the discussion, the involved roads, we have to understand are public ways. Public ways means just that. They're open to the public. The taxpayers have paid for those roads. They're entitled to use those roads. So limiting those roads to residents only would be in our opinion, would be overly restrictive to both the residents and others with legal access to them. If you want to talk about residents, that's fine, but you're also going to be talking at that time of year about plumbers, electricians, landscapers, Uber, Lyft drivers that may be picking somebody up, an oil delivery truck, or people delivering things to homes up there, home health aid workers, visitors. Brooksby Farm will be open for a portion of this. To close those roads, we would have to have a police officer posted up at the end of every road and basically have a checkpoint, and every vehicle that comes in, stop them and ask them to state their business as to why they want to drive up to the neighborhood. We think that's overburdensome, and we don't think it's warranted in this case. So we don't plan on doing that. So in conclusion, the Peabody Police Department is going to deploy sufficient assets to provide public safety coverage for the Big Apple Circus, including mitigating potential traffic concerns related to the event. And if the PPD identifies a problem area during the event, additional assets will be strategically deployed to address those issues. And Mr. Ankley's already addressed this. It's imperative that the pending special permit provide the Peabody Police Department the authority to determine the level of coverage needed to cover the Big Apple Circus. And it also is imperative that we are allowed to, or be given the flexibility to add or delete assets as needed to properly cover the Big Apple Circus, and further that the applicant be required to pay for those costs. And that's already been addressed by Mr. Ankles in the special permit as some of those special conditions. So I know I went through it fairly quickly. Mr. Ankles covered a lot of this already. I just hope that you understand that the mall is open at Christmas time, and the traffic at Christmas time compared to what we're going to be seeing here is way, way more than what we're going to expect here for the circus. So, and at the time that this circus goes on, the mall is not at its, no offense, Mr. Whiting, the mall is not at its busiest time, so you're not going to encounter a lot of mall traffic mixed in with this traffic. So I think from the police standpoint, we've been asked to evaluate this. We have done so, and I think that our plan is going to be more than sufficient to handle whatever issues may come up traffic-wise with the Big Apple Circus. Now, anybody have any questions?
Captain, if you don't mind, I'll let you come back up for questions from the council as well as referencing resident questions. But as of now, I'd like to open it up to the public. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak in favor of this petition? Anybody that's in favor, please step up to the podium. You can take a right behind the mayor, and I'll call you up next. Honorable Mayor Betancourt. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, good evening, council. When I first heard from Mark Whiting about the possibility of the Big Apple Circus coming to the city of Peabody and to North Shore Mall, I was intrigued and certainly very interested. After meeting with the operators of the Big Apple Circus, learning about their operation, learning about their commitment to the communities in which they perform, I got to say that my excitement was extremely high about the opportunity to have the Big Apple Circus a part of the city of Peabody. They perform at a number of cities in the Northeast, New York City, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and by all accounts, they've done an excellent job, first-class operation that not only perform an outstanding show for their residents, for the residents of those communities, but also are a part of the community. And what was extremely important for me was a number of things. One is that their commitment to working with our city departments, our police department, fire, health, Department of Public Works. That was extremely important to me, and to make sure that they understood that there was going to be some issues in each community that they deal with. There are issues that are unique to those communities, and certainly we're very well aware of the closeness to a number of residents in the city, and we need to make sure that this was not a burden on the residents of our community and the residents of Brooksby Farm, which unfortunately already is a cut-through for many that go through Felton Street, Mount Pleasant, Baldwin, cut through to get to the mall. That's been a problem that the neighborhood has had to deal with for a number of years, and certainly very sensitive to that, as I know all of you are. And that's why it was so important to have the police department do this study to make sure that they were comfortable, that they could maintain the operation and make sure that the flow of traffic was handled as best they could. It was important also that the circus agreed that they were going to pay all expenses, police details, fire details, security, cleanup of trash and debris. Those are extremely important. Permit costs. That is something I wanted to make sure that, although this is a great benefit to the city of Peabody, that these costs are not borne by the city of Peabody, but that these costs are taken over by the Big Apple Circus. Certainly those that know me well, I often speak about being proud of our community, and I think that it's important for a community to have opportunities to have some excitement and to have something of interest in your community. I think we need to have in the city moments where families can get together, residents can get together and enjoy a show. And most importantly, children, our special needs community. I think this will be an outstanding show for all in our city. I'm very excited about what the many shows and the people that will be able to enjoy the Big Apple Circus. I was extremely impressed with the commitment to provide access to the circus for all of our children. The Big Apple Circus, and it was mentioned by Attorney Ankles, will perform specially designed shows for children with autism, as well as their unique Circus of the Senses for children with visual and hearing disorders. That was very meaningful to me on a personal level, and I know to many in the city it will be a wonderful opportunity for our children to enjoy in our special needs community. The circus itself is going to donate the first night's proceeds to a Peabody community program or charity. That is extremely important as well. They want to be a part of our community. I envision that we'll be dividing that up to a number of different causes and important programs and charities in our city. When I first heard about this and when I realized that there was a real possibility that this could happen, the first people I wanted to speak to were the city of Somerville and the officials. Last year, the Big Apple Circus performed at the city of Somerville at Assembly Row, and as part of the due diligence, I felt we needed to connect with those city officials, including Mayor Joe Curtatone, who I spoke with multiple times about the Big Apple Circus. And those officials could not be more effusive in their praise about Big Apple Circus and their operation. Their willingness to engage with the community, their willingness to work with the city departments to make sure that everything ran very smoothly. And I can tell you that Mayor Curtatone expressed major regret that they were not able to keep the Big Apple Circus at the city of Somerville and wish that they could. I do have a letter. It is brief. I wanted to read it from Mayor Curtatone from the city of Somerville. Dear Mayor Betancourt, thank you for your inquiry about Somerville's experience hosting the Big Apple Circus in 2018. In short, our experience was exceptionally positive, and we are disappointed that we are not in a position to welcome the circus again in 2019. Last year, Somerville hosted the Big Apple Circus on a vacant development parcel in Assembly Row. I think those who have been to Assembly Row know that is an extremely busy area. This year, that same lot is currently under construction, and we do not have another area able to accommodate the space needs of the circus. We very much wanted to continue our partnership, and we searched long and hard to find a suitable location, but ultimately we were not able to identify an appropriate site. Working with the Big Apple Circus was a pleasure. They actively coordinated with our police, fire, DPW, traffic and parking department, and our communications department to ensure that the shows presented no disruption to the city and that all potential concerns were satisfactorily addressed well in advance of the opening show. They maintained real-time communication with the city's project liaison and rapidly responded to requests for plans and information. Additionally, they provided reduced price tickets for underprivileged children and underserved schools, hosted a circus of the senses for audiences who have visual and hearing impairments, as well as other developmental challenges, and hosted a sensory-friendly performance for autistic audience members. The Big Apple Circus was a great community partner, and we wish we had the space available to host them again. And I do have the letter, certainly if the council would like to receive that. I do have the letter from Mayor Curtatone.
Councilor Rosen, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
So in summary, I am a strong proponent of the Big Apple Circus coming to the city of Peabody. I think it would be wonderful for our residents, wonderful for our families, a great family event, and most importantly, again, for our children and our special needs community. This will highlight the greatness that I think is in our city and the wonderful things that we have that are offered for our community, and I think this will be a wonderful addition to the city of Peabody. If it does not work, we only have a one-year agreement. If it does not work for our community and it doesn't fit with what we're hoping for, then this will not be part of the city's future. But I think it would be a great event for our city, and I'm hopeful that the City Council, that you will support this application. Thank you. And I'm certainly here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Sister Kathy? You had both my kids at Carmelite, so thank you. Sister, could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sister Kathy Betancourt, Carmelite sister, run the Holy Childhood Preschool. We happen to be on the corner of Wheatland Street and Prospect Street, which is right down the street from where the circus will be. We are very excited about this, especially for our families. There's not often entertainment and things that we can highly recommend, but we've heard so many wonderful things about the Big Apple Circus, and it's something that's very accessible, especially to young children, the preschool age, which is the age that we serve. There's a lot of wonderful learning opportunities with this, and I know Peabody always has a traffic issue, especially on Prospect Street. I see it every night, as there's a nice parade of lights for about an hour or so, and then it clears up. So I know the traffic is a concern, But I think the benefits of having the circus come and the opportunity it is offering to especially young families and the children of the city and surrounding areas outweighs that. And as the mayor had just said, if they see that, you know, it doesn't work out, then in the future it won't continue. But I think it would be unfortunate if the city didn't at least give it a try for this one time. I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and it may be my only chance to run away and join the circus. So please keep that in mind. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sister.
Hi there, good
Hi.
evening. My name is Rhonda Zero. I want to be very transparent and tell
Could
you
you
all
State your address also, please.
my address. 7 Larrabee Terrace in Peabody. I want to be very transparent and tell you all that I have done business with the circus myself before. That's not why I'm here. I certainly hope to continue to pursue that. I did business when they were in Somerville, and if they're in Peabody, I will pursue that. And if they go to some other community, because we don't approve this, I will pursue that. So I'm here as a resident. I live in Peabody. I've lived here far too long to admit to you how long I've lived here. I remember traffic in the mall before online shopping at Christmas time. I remember when there was traffic up Prospect Street and on 114. We all got through it. This circus, I think, helps put Peabody on the map. I read recently that we have the most romantic restaurant in the state or something now. We could host, this is a world-class circus. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it in New York. This isn't a carnival. It is a world-class circus. If we are going to let traffic be the only barometer to measure, then, you know, maybe Topsfield should shut down the fair and North Shore Music Theater should shut down, and you know, Halloween in October on 128 is far worse than any traffic that this is going to bring on. For small businesses in the community, this is a wonderful opportunity for the services. I heard them mention they're going to need refuse services. They're going to need generator services. It's a great opportunity. They are a wonderful business partner. I was paid more quickly than any other vendor ever paid me. They were a pleasure to work with. They were good to my staff. The circus itself was tremendously staffed. We were in there in off hours, and there was always people around. There were always things being attended to. It was always being cleaned. I can't see this as a bad thing for Peabody at all. I think at the very least for 1 year they should be given a chance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Julie Scheimetz, and I live at 12 Proctor Circle in Peabody, right behind the mall. I've been here 50 years and dealt with Halloween, no big deal. Christmas, not a big deal. I am all for the circus, and I did originally have questions about the waste, but I do believe it was addressed. I hope that it will be more specific on times of pickup and removal. I know you guys said you'll do it, and that's wonderful, but I would like to know a time. The things that I didn't hear and the questions that I do have that hopefully somebody can address is the generators running, how loud they are, because I am directly behind, my neighborhood is directly behind the circus. So I'm curious about that, how loud the music is, and what the police will do on parking on Proctor Circle, where there are going to be 3 shows in the weekend. And I also, as far as safety is concerned, I'm just concerned about the Prospect Street Firehouse. Are they going to be active? Are they going to be inactive? Are they going to have to move the trucks during the shows? And also access for Leahy Peabody, where they do have a hospital there that does run 24 hours for emergencies. So those are just my concerns, but other than that, I say bring it on, you know, bring it to Peabody. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else to speak in favor? Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Dan Walsh. I live at 397A Lowell Street in Peabody. I came here tonight because my son actually had a Boy Scout requirement to attend a City Hall meeting, and I thought this was kind of neat. I'm actually really impressed. I didn't know really what to expect from the circus and, you know, what it was going to involve. I'm actually really impressed with the amount of, I don't know, reconnaissance that you guys did on the parking, the traffic flow. Good job, yeah. Also, too, I'm also really impressed to hear the fact that it's not going to cost the city anything there's very few things that come into our city that don't require some sort of service on the city to be paid for by the city. I think that's really impressive. I love the fact that they're doing a lot of outreach as far as the schools are concerned, our special needs students. I think that's really amazing. I heard something about a merit badge program. We'll talk to you about that later. I think that's really kind of neat. I do applaud the mayor for consistently trying to improve the quality of life in the city by offering these kind of programs. You know, we constantly complain that the cities don't do enough for us, and then when something like this, kind of a neat opportunity comes along, you know, there's some general concerns, but, you know, to that effect, you know, thank you for at least giving us the opportunity and working with these guys. I know the city council takes these kind of things really seriously, but I don't know, I think it's a really great opportunity. I have two kids in the Peabody Public Schools. There's Aiden over there. There's Eric, one of Aiden's friends. Aiden goes to the middle school. My daughter Sophia goes to the Carroll School. We actually live right on Lowell Street, right around the corner from Prospect Street. We're well aware of mall traffic at any given time. We're well aware of Halloween traffic, of Christmas traffic. I think that, you know, if everything is taken care of by the Circus Corporation as far as the security details, dealing with power, water, stuff like that, I think the minor traffic influx is kind of a small price to pay, especially if some of the smaller businesses are going to get some dividends in return. I would imagine that areas on Lowell Street, up on 114 are all going to see their business go up quite a bit as people coming from outside of the city and inside of the city frequent those places while they're waiting for a show or after a show. So I think it's a great opportunity. I hope City Council listens to obviously any concerns that residents have, but also the excitement that I think that this is going to bring to the community. I think it's a great opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Mr. Whiting, please state your name and address for the record.
Mark Whiting, I'm the general manager of the North Shore Mall, 210 Andover Street. First of all, I'd like to say that I wasn't really planning on speaking tonight, but I did want to take a moment. I want to personally thank the mayor and his staff for really what was an incredibly open-minded approach to considering the Big Apple Circus performance opportunity in their efforts to explore how to best and accommodate the initiative here in the city. I really want tonight to especially acknowledge Ward Councilor Charest. I've known Ed for many years, especially when he was on the school board. But I had not worked with Ed on a proposal of this scope before. Despite some comments to the contrary, I want to personally communicate to the city and its residents that Councilor Charest has gone out of his way to advocate for the needs of his constituents. He's attended numerous meetings with myself to understand how the Big Apple Circus would operate at the mall and what impact it could potentially have on the surrounding neighborhoods. Councilor Charest has absolutely served as the representative advocate for the mall's abutters and ensured that the issues concerning traffic, noise, trash, etc., have all been evaluated and appropriate solutions pursued, especially as it relates to traffic. The fact that the Peabody PD, Police Department, has crafted such a comprehensive traffic control plan, which I would note is still in the works, is a direct result of Councilor Charest and the mayor placing a clear priority on addressing the concerns of our neighbors. I've been the general manager at the North Shore Mall for 21 years, and as such, I have placed a tremendous importance on the standards of operations of the mall and being a consistently responsible civic and corporate citizen. Currently, North Shore Mall, and I think this might come as a surprise to many of its residents because we do not put it out there for really public knowledge, but currently North Shore Mall pays well over $8 million annually in property tax. That does not include alcohol, sales tax, just pure real estate tax. Currently, North Shore Mall is the largest PMLP customer, substantially contributing to the revenue and funding substantial infrastructure improvements throughout the city. North Shore Mall maintains the Peabody Police Substation, which services the ward that obviously the mall presides in. We operate that at no charge to the city, and currently we're building a new state-of-the-art substation, which will be relocating the existing substation to be between the two Macy structures over by the school. And that should open in April. As a result of the partnership with the Peabody Police Department, it should be, I think, a great compliment to the police department that in 5 years we've had less than 3 cars stolen in the parking lot, which, by the way, has a profound impact on auto insurance rates in the city. North Shore Mall is proud to serve as the home of the Peabody Learning Academy, which over the past 10 years has provided a classroom setting every day of the school year to over 25 students, and we've had over 100 students graduate thus far with full high school diplomas. We have conducted hundreds of community-based fundraisers, hundreds of civic events, which included last night's, I might add, highly successful Higgins Middle School Spelling Bee. I believe we are a good neighbor, and we expect that never to change. We need to evolve and transition to remain economically viable and relevant in the changing retail world that we live in. The circus is a non-traditional opportunity that we absolutely are proud to pursue. As was noted earlier, they've just completed a series of months of performance at the Lincoln Center successfully. I think the mayor and the police department have done a tremendous job with their due diligence speaking to Somerville. Officer Nelson was down speaking with the police department. I can say that in the 20 years of serving as the general manager, tonight is the first night that John and I have appeared before the city council. And I think that speaks to the level of support that I'm able to offer on behalf of the Big Apple Circus. I believe the Big Apple Circus is totally committed to developing a long-term relationship with North Shore Mall, Simon Property Group, and the city of Peabody. They know that that will only happen if they maintain an outstanding level of operational standard. I am confident that will happen, and I seek your support in this application for a special permit. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else in the audience to speak in favor? Anybody in the audience in opposition to the permit? Anybody in the audience to speak in opposition? Please step up to the podium, ma'am. Anybody else can step up to the podium? Anybody in opposition to the permits? Please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Tammy Lamont, homeowner of 6 Felton Street. And we have concerns not only in regards to the traffic, but like the officer said, our street is a public way, and we live there on a day-to-day basis, so we know exactly what happens every day. It's a well-known cut-through road where everybody uses it to get quickly to and from the mall or wherever they're going. In the meanwhile, the police department has even set up a radar speed limit, which flashes if you go over a certain amount of limit. Well, now we have children and, young adolescents that are purposely setting it off. So they're speeding now while they're cutting through, which is a danger to our children already. And aside from that, at Christmas time, no disrespect to the Peabody Police Department because they are awesome, but they cannot control the traffic. And it is a nightmare for us to go anywhere. And I understand the officer said that where we're residents, we'll get some kind of special privilege to get to and from home. But if we're 50 cars back, how is that going to happen for us? How are we going to get to and from? They also mentioned that alcohol was going to be served. We have concerns with the type of people that they're going to attract, and once they use the alcohol, will it bring problems to our residential neighborhood? So that's a big concern as well. We also would like to know what time the noise ordinance shuts down for good for people who work the next day, you know? So we have those concerns, and that's why we're bringing them forward to you for answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Church will likely address all of those questions
okay.
during the hearing.
Okay, great.
During the hearing, but if anybody else to speak in opposition?
My husband would like
come
to
right
do.
up.
Thank you.
My name is Stephen Lamont, and I live at 6 Felton Street. And before we moved up to Felton Street, we already went through an incident with another mayor that was a very great mayor, and he passed, but he okayed a golf course. We had to sell our home down on Granite Street because my children almost got hit by cars. And he said that wouldn't happen. People wouldn't speed through there. Well, it did. He can't predict what is going to happen. Now I'm up on Felton Street for 20 years now. Like my wife said, it's a cut through. The officer is saying what he believes, but like my wife said, he does not live there. He does not have to deal with it. Christmas time is a horror. With this circus coming, and I haven't heard anybody say, yes, it's a family thing, and I'm for the family thing, but that brings drama. That is going to bring pedophiles, drug addicts that are going to come to try to sell drugs to other teenagers that are there, or 21-year-olds that are going to drink beers, start selling their drugs. It happens. I haven't heard the gentleman here say how he does background checks on all his employees. He says that they're not accountable, but I can guarantee probably 20% of his employees are from carnivals. And we all know, sitting in this room, that when you work these places, their employees have to do drugs to stay awake for the period of times that they have to do their shows. In the trash thing that he was saying, when you go to circuses, yeah, they do pick up their trash and they do it, but they wait till the cans are overflowing, blowing around in the parking lots. They say they got parking for everybody, but I can guarantee that people are gonna try to come up on Felton, Stratus Way, and all the side streets up there to not pay for their parking. I've seen it happen, like I said, on Granite Street, and I don't want it to happen up on Felton Street. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. Anybody else in the audience? Ma'am, you can take a seat for 1 minute,
Okay.
and when the hearing starts,
All right,
you
thank
can come back up if need be. Anybody else in the audience to speak in opposition to the petition? Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Bill Rizzo. I live at 13 Long Street Road. I believe before the permit is issued, the following questions and comments should be publicly addressed by the city. Will demands on the existing water system negatively impact the surrounding neighborhoods? Will the combined decibel levels of temporary power units, heating and air conditioning units, and ventilation units be established low enough and be monitored for compliance in order to avoid disturbance to the surrounding neighborhoods? As conditions of the special permit, I believe the city should determine the number and duration of firemen and emergency equipment required for a fire watch during performances to ensure the enforcement of safety regulations and public safety. I believe the city should determine the number and frequency of inspections by the health department to ensure public health requirements are being met. The city should determine that the site is restored to its original condition and a completion time to achieve that be stipulated. I believe a bond in an amount determined by the city should be required to be issued to the city by the mall owner to guarantee that all cost reimbursements and conditions have been met. The city should also stipulate that this is a one-time special permit, and it is not to be construed that this is setting a precedence for the use of this site for any future venues. The permit should include restrictions on times of delivery of goods and products by vendors to the venue. The permit should include restrictions on the time for trash and refuse pickup, and the permit should include restrictions on the placement and times of servicing portable toilets. Also, I request a requirement should be included in the permit that a public review be conducted at the completion of the terms of this venue to determine if this area is appropriate and cost-effective for the city and surrounding neighborhoods. All of the above should be completed and shared with the taxpayers to show that the city has exercised due diligence before issuance of the special permit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else in the audience to speak in opposition? Please state your name and address for the record.
Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Russell Donovan, 12 Quail Road. As you know, and I said many times, I dislike for or against in opposition. I have questions that were not answered during the presentation. And those questions are, this is a long presentation. It's going to run for about 40 days and 40 nights. There has not been an answer to where these performers and staff are going to stay for those 40 days and 40 nights. There was no answer of how the animals or where the animals are going to be kept for 40 days and 40 nights. The performance might last for 2 performances 5 days a week, but we will have a number of strangers in the neighborhood, and I don't know where they're going to be staying. Are they staying in trailers? It wasn't addressed. I would like it to be addressed because we know, and I don't want to say it's a carnival, but when a carnival comes to town, we have some unexpected break-ins. And I'd like the security of the neighborhoods to be secure, and for the presenter to answer the question about where these, there was a lot of people mentioned. I think there was over 50 or 75 people. Where are they all going to stay? Are they going to be in trailers on the mall property? It hasn't been answered. It hasn't been addressed. I hope the city council will bring those points up and make sure the neighborhoods are secure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Anybody else in the audience to speak in opposition to the permit? Seeing none, Councilor Charest.
Thank you, President. If I may, I think Attorney Ankleys can answer some of the questions that were just asked, and he'll probably have more, and then I'd like to come back.
May I? I think I'll ask Captain Richards to address the questions and issues relative to traffic. As far as the characterization of the individuals or employees of the circus is concerned, I'm not going to address that. I'm going to allow the general manager of the circus to give you the information relative to the background of those people that work for the circus. I was a little bit upset with what was said, and I'm not sure that my response is worthy of the circus. So please forgive me if I don't respond to those characterizations, if you will. Captain Richards, can you address the traffic issues, and then I'll have Angelita Quavato, who is the general manager of the circus, address the other issues that were raised to the extent possible.
Thank you. Captain Richards. Captain, I'm not sure if you heard all the questions from the residents, if you can address
I
any
heard
of the
some. I mean, there was a lot
traffic
of things
concerns.
mixed in there. Again, with the traffic concerns, I think we covered that. The traffic that's going to be included or coming and going from the circus during the times that the circus is in effect, going through that particular neighborhood, and that seems to be the biggest concern here, are going to be minimal with that $500 car maximum that I talked about per show. A minimum number of those cars are going to be cutting through that neighborhood, and it's going to be nothing even close to what happens at Christmas time and other times that the roads aren't shut down. So I think I understand the concerns, but I also understand that those are public ways, those are streets that taxpayers pay to use, and we will have cruiser coverage up in that neighborhood for a half hour before and a half hour after the shows to make sure that people aren't speeding up and down the streets and cutting through there in a reckless manner. But beyond that, I think the plan that we have to keep that intersection cleared out at Prospect at the mall with a police officer stationed right there is going to be adequate to keep the cars from backing up and getting caught up in the neighborhood. The other thing is the mall is providing, I believe it's almost 700 or 800 parking spaces for this event. I don't think they're going to need near that many, so I don't see and foresee any cars parking up on the side streets up off Felton Street or up in that area and walking down to the circus when there's ample parking on the mall property, and there will be signage directing people to the parking areas. I don't believe that that's going to be a problem. If it turns into a problem, we'll address it.
Thank you very much, Captain.
Mr. President, I would like to ask the General Manager of Operations if you can come up and answer some of the questions that was asked. First of all, is the ones about the trailers and where they're going to be staying. And if you'd like to touch on the quality of workers, because I did, myself, was a little offended. I have family members who work in this industry, and I can tell you, they're the totally opposite of what was mentioned. So if you would, please.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Angelina Quevedo. I am the Vice President of Touring and General Manager for Big Apple Circus. I myself have been on tour and doing this for over 30 plus years. It is a little offensive to hear what people perceive a circus to be, but we are a 100% touring family show. We travel with our families, with our children. I myself personally travel with my husband and my 2 small children. Our children are educated. We do online school as well as we use tutors to tutor our children throughout the school year. Our children go to school 365 days a year. We are not uneducated people. We are very educated people. We go to college. We have degrees. Our personnel, we do background checks. We do random drug testing on our personnel. Our personnel are not going to be going into the city. We're not looking for drug deals. We're not buying drugs. We are bringing to the city. We bring so much more to the city than what most people expect. We are using the local businesses. We are patronizing the local businesses. We're bringing so much to the city, so much to the children, and the joy we bring to these families, and to families that never go out for family entertainment because their child has a disability. That is strong. Nowhere else can you go with a child with a disability, and we have open arms and we bring them into our show so that they can leave there with a smile on their face. If I could tell you the countless times I have parents thank me for being there for them, the parent who's having a meltdown because their autistic child had a meltdown during the show, and we took them in with open arms. I'm extremely passionate about what I do. I'm the first person on site as the trailers arrive, and I'm the last person that leaves. I restore every location to its original condition. I give you my word that our people are not going to be going into the city and buying drugs. We're not going to be bringing drug dealers into the area because we travel with our families. We are a family show. Our workers, most of us, grew up in the circus. I myself was a performer. I worked my way up. Due to an injury, I was no longer able to perform. But it didn't stop my career in doing what I love the most, and my passion, which is to bring joy to thousands, millions of people every year. Our families do live in RVs. They're fully self-contained recreational vehicles. We have 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, washers, dryers, self-contained. We use outside local service companies to come in and remove the waste in every location, multiple times per week. I can assure you, and I welcome you to come to our community and see what we are, because we are a community. We are not Carnival. Please, I hope that we can change that stigma, and I will guarantee you that we will change that stigma, because we are not.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, could you just let us finish? You can come back up to the podium if Councilor Trust so chooses, if you could just give us a minute. And you can continue, ma'am.
All of our people are not only checked, they are legal to work in the United States. I run a comprehensive program in the circus. I'm also DOT certified drug trainer. And we run background checks on all of our employees and drug testing, random drug testing on our employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Trust.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I just wanted to touch on a couple things with the traffic up in Brooksby, Felton, Mount Pleasant, and those. You're going to have more patrol during the time of these events than you have in the past, for any other time. More than you have during the shopping season, more than Halloween, more than any. And the folks who just spoke are paying for it. We will not have any other business operating in this city right now that does that, except for the mall. When it is shopping seasons, they do have the police detail, and they pay for it. This circus is on the mall property. They do not want this damage. They do not want people who does not desire to be in this city there. They have their own security also, plus the circus has their own security. You're going to be safer when this program is going on than any other time in a year. I understand the cut-through. I live on a street that's a cut-through, a one-way, and cars do fly down my street. I get it. I get it from the 2 schools. I get it from crossing through the city. I get it from the busing. I get it. I get it. I understand what you're saying. And I'm giving you my word, because I am a parent, and I did have to worry about my children, that if there's an issue going on, the captain's going to get a call, and he's going to increase. Because in this special permit, there's the language that the chief and his appointee has the ability to add any patrol, any public service, if it's fire or if it's police, added to what needs to be done. Okay? Again, the quality of people that work in these shows, they go to city. In most cases, they go back to the same city year after year. This is our first year. They know what they should be expected and to behave and act like, because they won't be invited back. I have a nephew who is an electrician that worked for the Blue Man Group, the $1 Million Quartet, numerous shows for children. And the background check that he has to go through, I can tell you the only ones, us as city councils don't even have to have as much background check as these performers do. So I hope I touched on that. The gentleman who lives on Long Street, you had some very good concerns and very good questions. The question about the water, is it going to be an impact? They bring their own water in. They bring this and they take out their sewage. They don't even use our water or sewage. They have their generators who generate electricity, so there's not a pull on our electricity. Earlier on, they said it was a 85 decimal. So I believe it's like an air conditioner, if I remember correctly, if you'd like to add on to that.
The sound of the generator, which you're going to hear, is about the ambiance in this room right at this moment with this microphone. Okay, the generators do run 24/7. We have moved the location of the generators away from the housing. So the generators are relatively quiet. As far as ambient sound from the circus outside the tent, you're going to have some residual sound, but it's not loud. It's less than 85 dBs. I actually did a dB reading in Lincoln Center, and the dB reading was at 65 outside of the tent. So that's considerably lower than what we have here. Our shows are scheduled at 7 p.m. in the evening to end at 9 o'clock at night. So at 9 o'clock in the evening, there will be no residual sound from the tent from music or amplified sound.
Thank you. The question of fire watch, the police will dictate, and with the fire department, if they need a fire watch, I'm not sure if they need one, or if they will have one there, what they need, if they need it more, they will increase it. Captain Richards, would you like to speak on that?
I just want to mention the fire department would certainly make their own determination as to what they need for fire watch coverage, and would certainly encourage them to do whatever it is that they need to do, and I'm sure the circus will be fine with whatever they choose to do.
And I am assuming that when we talk about the chief having, or his designee, have full control of what they need to have, that's going to be also with the fire department.
I would say yes.
Right. The other question was about the health department. The health department certainly will be there numerous times before and during to make sure, as inspections, they are doing what they need to do and properly keep everybody there safe with health conditions. I know with the rubbish and the animal waste, it was going to be continuing to be removed. The timing of the removal and of the inventory coming in was another great point. There is hours of operation, I know, that's set by the city, and I'm sure the mall has hours of set of delivery on their campus also that would be followed. Am I correct, Mark?
Yeah, I'll answer a couple questions, frankly. One is with regard to health and fire. We obviously will not allow the circus to begin performance until an inspection has occurred and that they are fully compliant with, as in any case at the mall, all health codes and all fire code. So that's part of our operating procedure at the mall to begin with any tenant. So not only do they have to pass the city overview, they also have to obviously meet our requirements for insurance, and their lease requires them to be fully compliant to all city code, all city, state, and federal code. I would also note, just to touch quickly, the mall is not interested in partnering with any organization that would in any way bring any type of criminal activity onto the property. I want to make sure I'm very clear on that. We're very protective of our brand, and that's one of the reasons why we are so vigorously supportive of maintaining the police department's presence on the property while we're open every day, and that's why we've engaged in having the police substation at the property. But if there is an issue with regard to traffic or something that pertains to the neighborhood, I'm always available to address that personally on the property. A good example would be we committed to the city during our permitting for the demolition of the Sears building that we would absolutely control traffic related issues coming and going from the property. And to my understanding, there was not one complaint received by the city during that process.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to talk about a little bit about the traffic. And when you had on the slide about closing down 3 of the main streets going into, and that was my suggestion. I asked them about that. I asked them about having placards on the windows of the cars. And their answer was to me is that you're going to cause more inconvenience to the residents of that neighborhood than you think you are helping them. They would have family trying to come in to visit them. They would have visiting nurses, visiting services that would need to be come in. You would probably create more of a hassle for them than you would even recognize. So I listened to the captain and his officers to give me the breakdown on why we shouldn't do certain things When we may think as lay people that this is the best option, I have total confidence with our department and with our city mayor's office that they're going to make that neighborhood and the other neighborhoods. I'm talking Essex Green behind the shopping center, the Leahy Clinic. All those people back there are going to have complete access to getting in and out of their homes. They won't be blocked. They won't be inconvenienced as having to show an ID and trying to get out. They will be blocking off Prospect Street during the show, so cars not coming down, coming up from 114 and turning into the Shaw's entrance there. They'll be coming in further on up on the mall property. They will bring cars, and it's a fluid. This is a fluid measure of how the cars are coming in, and bring them quickly as possible on the mall property and not on the side roads. But as they did speak to me about, when we have multiple entrances, that means multiple cars are taking it. So if you're having 400 cars now, and you have 4 entrances, now you only have 100 cars coming. And there's far less than what it would be during the shopping season. I get it. You know, you live on a busy street, and you bought it because you're very convenient to all the locations, and you don't want to be bothersome. You're gonna have a little bit. I don't believe it's 45 days. I believe is it 30 some days? So I'm not exactly the number, but the number is reduced. One of the things I did ask already was for a street cleanup of the neighborhood. This tent is going to be totally fenced in and with a green mesh, I believe, so you're not looking through the chain link. So everything within the tents are going to be secured by a fence. All the food and beverage is going to be served within the tents, if not just on the outskirts of the tent, but still within the fence area. They had committed to me that after every evenings and shows in the mornings, they would go out in the neighborhood streets there to clean up anything that was blown and dropped outside. Now, they're not going to come down to on Lowell Street or, but they're going to do it. They want to come back here. They're investing a lot of money. They want to do it right, like we heard from Somerville. Again, the police have the final say. They will dictate how many officers they need, how many details they would need. If they feel they have 1 week and they need it more, they'll increase it. If they're standing around and there's nothing for them to do, they may decrease it. They have our backs. They have our interests at heart. In the brochure, it shows that they will beer and wine and alcohol. They have taken the alcohol off the menu. They're only going to be serving beer and wine. Every other establishment around here that has entertainment certainly has more than that. We're going to be asking for a direct line of communication with the circus. I will be provided, the council here will be provided, the mayor's office will have that direct line to the operation manager. And I can tell you, I've met her a couple times and I spoke to her a couple times. These people here, they are committed to do the right thing. We're very fortunate to have an operation like this wanting to come to Peabody. I heard for too many years that Peabody was dull. Nothing was happening in Peabody. We have nothing going on. Well, guess what? In the last few years, it's been the best city for millennials, fifth best city in the country to live in. It's the happy city. It's the exercise city. Whatever the words they are, it's all been positive. I believe this is going to be another positive. I do not believe the mayor's office or Mark Whiting will allow something to come into this city that would not be positive. Again, if it doesn't work, it's not back here. Sir, you had that comment about is only a commitment for the first year, and when we look at it, you made an excellent point. We will have a meeting after this program is over to discuss the pros and cons, what they are. We will discuss that because that will take, we need to have that because any other organization that may want to come in, we're going to utilize that information. And don't forget, Peabody here and the police and fire and DPW are no strangers to things like this. We hosted the golf, senior golf tournament up in the Salem Country Club. We had large openings at the mall, if it was a celebrity singer or if it's a brand-new golf store that opened up, and you had people waiting in line. There were probably 300 people. Ann Manning was there. She'll see it. So they're not. We have the International Festival. We had a lot of things that we had experience and with crowd control and doing it right. So I'm confident in that. And again, for what they do, the programs they offer to children with special needs, who in some cases are not really welcomed or maybe frowned upon if they have an episode, if they're in the movie theater or at a dinner. Think about that. They're welcoming them. They're saying, you are coming to our home, and their workers consider that their home also. So I am touched by the generosity of what they're going to show to our children that I haven't seen anywhere else. So I'm going to support this. I know I'm long-winded, but I've never seen, in the 3 years, going on 4 years now, of a presentation that is so fine-tuned and so represented so well. I hope every other business that tries to come to here in Peabody has the same attitude. Thank you. I'll open it up to councilors unless David had something else to say.
Thank you, Council. Before you do that, you have some communications, some item 8J, P, and 3 late communications.
Move to accept late communications.
All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Council, you also have items 8J and 8P in the packet, if you'd like to receive those.
Make a motion to receive 8J, 8J and 8K.
8J and 8P.
So move.
All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. That will open it up to the council. Council Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's a great opportunity for the city to really show a different side of what we can do in the entertainment world, and I believe the North Shore Mall is the right place for it. But I had some questions, and I'd like to ask a couple if I could, please. Mr. Whiting, Mark, please. What's the typical amount of cars that come to the North Shore Mall on December 15th, just picking a day prior to Christmas?
Well, I'll say this. The parking lot, the capacity of our parking lot is 7,800 cars. You know, on the Saturday before Christmas, which is the busiest day of the entire year, we would be close to capacity, maybe 1 to 4 o'clock. Other than that, never at capacity.
And it's 8,500 cars? Is that what you said?
7,800 cars.
7,800. And the queue time for most people on any of the neighboring streets to get into the mall, would you guess?
Here's what I would say. I have no factual knowledge about the queuing time, but I will say that our number one entrance to the property is Route 128. The number 2 entrance would be 114. The number 3 entrance would be Prospect Street. And the number 4 entrance would be Cross Street.
And we estimate at maximum that we're probably going to have 500 cars come in for a performance, which is about 1/15 of what you do on the Saturday prior to Christmas.
We've calculated using the audience size. The tent will hold 1,650 people. So we think that most people will bring children with them. We're thinking that the capacity, if it was, 1 car holding roughly 3 people, would have about 500 cars at max per show. That is vastly under what we have at a typical Saturday in December.
And as Captain Richards pointed out, there's 4 entrances. There may be weighted, it may be, 150 cars coming at each entrance at any point during the performances, prior to the performances. And then leaving, same thing. If I could ask a couple more, please.
Tom, Councilor Gould, I would also note that the time frame that we're looking to host this event is, far below as far as historical traffic patterns, anything you would see in the fourth quarter in general. So one of the reasons we are embracing the performance is because it comes at a historically slow time at the mall.
Ms. Corvedo, I apologize if I didn't pronounce you correctly. Did I do okay with it?
You did fine.
All right. Can you talk about the animals and what kind of treatment the animals will receive? I know there's dogs and horses.
Dogs, horses, and a pig. 1 pig. All of our animals are rescue animals or animals that have been rescued from slaughters or adopted animals. All of our animals have a veterinarian that's available to them. We not only use a local veterinarian, we're also guided by local, state, and federal regulations when it comes to the health care of the animals and the care of the animals. The animals will live on site. They have 2 housing units on site. One is the horses and the ponies, which will be in their stalls. And then we also have a secondary tent location for the dogs. We have 2 grooms that live on site close to the tent where the animals are being kept 24/7. And also the animal handler, Jenny Vedville, who's a multi-generation circus performer and animal handler. She also lives on site, and her location, her recreational vehicle, will be also right next to the tent as well.
So at no point are any of the dogs, horses, or the single pig being mistreated, I hope?
No, absolutely not.
And
Absolutely
can you
not.
just give us 30 seconds, what do the dogs do in the show?
The dogs, well, all of the animals are trained, so they'll do multiple tricks during the show, catch frisbees, go between legs, etc. These are all of the tricks that they have learned. These are natural to the animal, and it's just done through repetition and reward. It's exactly like you're teaching your dog how to sit. It's the same thing. It's repetition and reward. Food is the biggest reward for animals, so Jenny will always have a pouch on her with food. So she's always given them rewards throughout the show. As they're performing as well. Same with the horses and ponies.
Thank you.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Whiting, I had a question, please. Can you tell me, Mark, specifically, because you can describe exactly where are the RVs going to be stationed for the homes for the performers?
Yeah.
Where in the mall?
So the RVs will be positioned if you're looking at Shaw's from Barnes & Noble, there's a smaller lot next to Shaw's. They'll be positioned either in that lot enclosed with fencing, or there will also be additional equipment, RVs, placed in the lot at the bottom of the Barnes & Noble, at the back of the Barnes & Noble lot.
Thank you. Mark, what is the approximate, not dollar-wise, but what does the mall gain from having the circus, other than some people coming to the mall, number of people coming to the mall and spending money, but is there revenue for the mall?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Where is, Ms. Corvedo, where is all of the food being prepared?
Our food is prepared on site. All of our food is prepared. We don't fry any food. Everything is done by ovens right there on the premises in what we call the reception tent area. All of our performers and employees are fed through what we call our cookhouse. That's where our 3 chefs travel, which is a 53-foot semi-trailer with full cooking facility for the employees to eat.
Thank you. And parking attendants, once the police get them in through the major intersections,
We do have employees that are available to help and assist.
are available or will be?
They will be, and we'll hire outside as well, local people to help us with the parking if need be.
What did you say at the end? I'm sorry.
If need be. Most of the
Well, if
people
need be, there's 500 cars coming into an area. I would hope that it's not a random, okay, you park here, and I
We
hope
do
they're
have
going
an
to be...
area that we're working with the mall. That is going to be our area for the circus parking. We will have signs out directing people into those areas. If we come into agreements that we do need extra personnel out there to help them park in a parking spot, we absolutely will do that. I think there's a little misconception when people are thinking 500 cars are coming. 500 cars are not going to show up at once. People are going to trickle in. They're going to come early. They're going to eat at the mall, shop at the mall, and leave at the same leisurely pace that they do. And with the 500 cars, that is, if we are at capacity every single day, that's most likely what you're going to see. In the history, as long as I've been doing this, I put 4 people per vehicle because that's more of an average than 3. Most people do, or is a mom and dad and 2 children. That's 4 people per vehicle. So I think, you know, the impact is going to be a lot less than what is being projected at the 500 vehicles.
So is there a boundary set up for the cars, where we'd like the cars to be parked?
We have discussed it.
There will be no specific hard boundary. So cars, in a sense, can park either behind Barnes & Noble. We don't necessarily want them parking, let's say, in front of Shaw's, because we don't want other tenants being impacted by lack of parking capacity. But it might surprise some people to know that to get the event even approved at the mall, we first had to seek the approval of Macy's and JCPenney. And both of those obviously are concerned about traffic flow, especially on the days when they have multiple events, and both have signed off on the event.
Thank you. David, can you tell me, please, the liquor license is going through the mayor's office, or how are they going to get a beer and wine license?
Excuse me. There is a special statute which governs one-day events. And what we will have to do is submit an application for each day that we're going to have a beer and wine license. Once we know whether or not we have our special permit, we will put together our applications and present them to the licensing board. We must file an application for each day that we are going to serve. So it's a small fee, I think, of $30 a day for that license, but it will proceed through the licensing board.
Anybody that can answer it, will there be an ambulance on site?
If part of the conditions of approval are that we are supposed to have an EMT and an ambulance on site, Big Apple Circus will provide that service.
Thank you. You folks have been wonderful with the questions. I appreciate it. Mark, do you want to say something?
We also work with Atlantic they generally post up at the mall because it's extremely convenient for them to dispatch EMT staff throughout the area from the mall property. So we've worked out, an informal agreement that they can basically post up every day at the mall.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. No further questions.
Thank you. Councilor Gravello, if you don't mind, I'm just going to have the resident come up. She has one question to ask. Thank you.
Not a problem at all.
Thank you. No, you don't.
There we go. First of all, I'd like to say I didn't catch your name, so I apologize for not appropriately addressing you, but I appreciate and respect how you let us know how well educated you are, as well as we, because we wouldn't own in a middle class or an upper class area if we weren't, as well as the fact that we live with our children there as well. So that's why we have these concerns, and I appreciate all the responses tonight because it made a big difference on how I feel. But I do have a question for you, if I may. You mentioned the generators are going to run all night long. Now, this is something that you and your family has become adapted to. We have not, and we're not used to that. So when you talk about the noise level for those generators running all night, what exactly does that mean to us who are trying to sleep or go about our lives, please?
If you could just let her take and answer that question. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the generators, unless you're standing right next to the generator or you're sleeping next to that generator, you're not going to hear it a block away. okay? It's the same with the ambient sound from the tent when the show is going on. Unless you're like right outside the tent and you're a block and 2 blocks away, you're not gonna hear that.
Excellent.
Okay?
Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you both. Councilor Gravel.
Thank you, Council Turco. Council President, sorry. All due respect. First of all, I want to thank the people who've come tonight in preparation for this permit. It's probably one of the most, been here a long time, it's probably one of the most thorough presentations. It actually answered all the questions before they were even asked. And Council Gould just had one answered that I was mindful of, which is where are the RVs going to be parked, and I think that's a very appropriate area. I know exactly where you're talking about, Mark, and I think that's great. You know, there are very few issues that I've heard before this council where people have spoken so passionately in favor. In particular, the mayor's plea was a pretty clear one, that this is an opportunity for the city. I've had the opportunity to work with Mark Whiting for many, many years in his involvement with the PBD Education Foundation and through the high school when I was on the school committee, putting together the mall school. The one thing I know and that residents can take to heart is he would never do anything to jeopardize the reputation of that mall. His concern has always been highest quality first and then profitability second. And I've seen it personally multiple times where he's put the values of the city in front of the values of the mall. So for him to stand up and say he wants to put something like this here, clear to me that he's given a lot of thought and there's a lot of concern, and I don't think we have much to worry about in terms of the reputability of what he's bringing there. I will say that for the most part, people are usually afraid of things that they don't know, and frankly, I have never been to a circus. This will be a real opportunity. I'm hoping to meet with Sister Kathy. Maybe, you know, that running away to the circus thing sounds pretty good. But it's clear to me, you know, I don't understand the workings of a circus, but I am thrilled to be able to have the opportunity to learn about that and to be able to see that progress. It actually, tonight's presentation made me want to go because of the special things that you're doing with children, and education is very special to me. And the last thing I wanted to say was, in terms of the operations manager, and again, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, it's Ms. Corvedo. That was one of the most classy responses that I've seen in a long time, and your passion for what you do was demonstrative in your language as well as in your expression, and I have the utmost respect for the way you explained your passion for that circus and your passion for that job. I'm hoping that it really rings clear and to people that this is not a fly-by-night operation. This is not the old Ward 2 carnival that we used to see. This is really, it sounds like a class act thing that's going on, and I'm glad you chose Peabody. I'm glad I'm going to be able to support it tonight, and I hope it's successful and that we have many, many years of opportunity to be able to have you back, because I do think it puts a nice mark on the city that's mayor. You didn't mention that. I mean, we've won the award year after year for Playful City. This goes right into it. So certainly it falls in line with what we want to be known as a place of creativity, welcoming to all people. And thank you very much for bringing it here.
Councilor Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was a great presentation, and I appreciate you bringing this forward. and choosing Peabody to have the Big Apple Circus. I think this is going to be amazing. Most of my questions have been asked and or answered. The two I do have is Captain Richards. In your presentation, you mentioned that you were going to block off inside the mall itself the parking to the tent, that roadway, correct?
That's correct. Sometime before the show and then for a little while after the show, then it will be opened back up between the shows until the next show starts.
So how will traffic be diverted around that area? So if you're coming from Proctor and you want to go to the mall, you're not going to the circus, how would you be rerouted to get to the mall?
You'd either reroute by Shaw's and come up by Shaw's towards the mall, or you'd be sent up Prospect to the other entrance to the mall further on the other side of Macy's.
Okay. And that entrance won't be blocked, so
That's
people
correct.
going on to...
Because people live in Essex Green that are going to want to come in, so that will not be blocked. That'll remain open the whole time.
Thank you. And then my only other question is a fire hydrant. Where is that in location to this vicinity?
That I wouldn't be able to tell you. The fire department, Mark Whiting, they would be able to tell you that.
So the fire hydrant, the closest fire hydrant is located right on the back side of Shaw's on that street.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation. Thank you.
Council Melville.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. This was echo the comments. It's a very detailed presentation. I thought everybody for and against brought some interesting points to the table. I had a question. This may be for the mall, Mr. Whiting. When we have these things come up, I usually pull up my Google satellite image, and I see that there are some, in that area that you're going to be operating some cars there in this image. I don't know if you have storage or...
No, we have a informal, I'm sorry, we have an informal agreement, just as a professional courtesy, where we allow employees of East Boston Savings Bank to park in that lot. It's existed for, 5-10 years and without incident. And we've already met with the bank president, and we've agreed that we'll just temporarily have those cars park in the upper end of the lower Macy's lot.
Thank you. I mean, that makes perfect sense and answers one of my questions on that. One of the pieces of advice I got from, I actually spoke to a colleague in Somerville, and Somerville's obviously congested just based on what's going on in Assembly Row. And their main point to me was just find out what you're pushing out of there, what you're making space for, because it's a wave, it's going to go somewhere else in your area. And luckily for us, you already have parking for East Boston Savings Bank in your own area, and you also have hundreds of spaces, thousands available in that time of year, so that impact is considerably less than what Somerville was seeing when they had a similar, when they brought the Big Apple there.
Well, I'm happy to also announce that we hopefully will be pushing out our snow removal equipment. So that's what we store in that equipment during this time of year.
Excellent. My major questions coming in when I saw the map and was regarding the generator and where the generator was located. You've answered that. Some of the other questions that have come up have been answered on the list of things I had. I guess from my perspective, when we first got this and it was presented to us, a lot of the things we talk about here at the council are building buildings that are going to be there for decades and long-term consequences. And so when the neighbors have concerns, all very valid for me, and I usually will listen, and that forms a major part of my opinion is based on what the neighbors are going to feel. That's the same case here. The one caveat to this, what makes it unique, is that we're essentially agreeing to a 1-year, see what happens kind of approval. If some of the things that, the worst case scenarios come to play, we'll be prepared to deal with those. As Councilor Charest and one of the neighbors had a great idea of basically doing, in the military we call an after-action report, talk about what went right, what went wrong, what can we continue to do right, and what can we try to avoid doing wrong in the future, and should we avoid this totally? So I think that there's a lot of opportunity here just based on what we're talking about and the fact that there is no long-term structure being built. If this is not utilized, maybe that's a possibility down the line, right? And so I think for us that I see this as an opportunity for the city of Peabody to use a space that isn't being used other than an overflow parking lot for a tenant that's next door, that we can maybe utilize this in the best way for the city. And if it doesn't work, we don't do it again. And I can guarantee you, if some of the worst things that we've heard that could happen, myself and my fellow councilors, as you've heard them tonight, will be out front making sure that this doesn't occur again and that we avoid this issue going forward. So that's my thoughts on this, and I feel very comfortable supporting it going forward. Thank you.
Council McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess of all the things I've heard tonight, the saddest comment was from Councilor Gravel that he's never been to the circus. Unlike Councilor Gravel, I have been to the Big Apple Circus a number of years ago when my kids were much younger, and it was really a great experience. So if the show is as good now as it was then, I think we're in for something kind of special here in Peabody. Councilor Charis, I know you've done a tremendous amount of work on this and applaud you for that. And I know you're going to deal with all the community development input and police input and health and DPS. I'm sure that's all subject that you're going to address. So really, everything else has been asked and answered, other than one issue, which is something that I think one of the residents, Mr. Rizzo, mentioned. There's a commitment to pay all the public safety costs. And is the mayor still here? Mr. Mayor? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just, there's a commitment on behalf of the circus to pay all the public safety costs. And you know, I know we heard from somebody that was a vendor to the circus previously that they were prompt pay, and that's great. But these costs could get quite high. So I was wondering, maybe in your discussions with Mayor Curtatone, or if there was any consideration given with the finance department about the suggestion of a bond, because we don't know what these costs are, and you know, if they were subject to dispute after the fact, it would give us some comfort to know that there was a bond posted ahead of time. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that, if that's been considered at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. I had multiple discussions with Mayor Curtatone, and no, we did not specifically talk about a bond. I didn't specifically ask if that was a part of their special permit. I can tell you, though, that he did state to me that the Big Apple Circus was prompt in their payments, that all bills were paid in a very reasonable time, and that working with them in terms of the finances was a pleasure, and that's why they were so eager to want them to come back because of that relationship. But specifically about a bond, no, that didn't come up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and maybe through you to the applicant, Mr. President, has the Big Apple Circus put up a bond in it with any other municipality in advance to cover the costs of?
No, in the past we have not.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Council Sasslaw.
Thank you very much, Council President. So I'm very familiar with the area. I grew up at Cross Keys Apartments across the street. I know the area is very underutilized, except for during the winter when you have your snowplow operations there. So I think it's a good opportunity to use that. I had two quick questions of the applicant. The first one was, can people bring in their own food and drink?
No.
Okay, thank you. And is there any paid parking at all? You're gonna have, like, I know, like North Shore Music Circus, there's no paid parking, but then they come up with VIP parking lot. Are you any paid parking at all?
No, we are not having paid parking at all.
Great. And lastly, and it was said a couple of times tonight, and for me, from a personal level, you know, when Mark Whiting does something, he does his due diligence, so that gave me a comfort. I ran into Mark probably a couple of months ago, and in passing, he mentioned it was a thought. He was thinking about it, and I obviously told him I would be open to the suggestion and to hear what the proposal was. But to be able to have someone who is really looking out for the interests of the city in many different ways, it's revenue because he is the largest taxpayer, but he also understands that he needs to diversify. If he doesn't diversify, you can open up the Wall Street Journal every day of the week, and those shopping centers are going, unfortunately, not in the right direction. So to have a leader who looks at diversification, but also takes into account protecting the brand of his employer and also being a good neighbor, I don't think you can ask for any more. So I'm going to support it wholeheartedly. And I just thought of one thing. If you think about it, a couple of years ago, we had a big birthday celebration. Where do we have it? Mark opened up his house. We had it at the mall. Thank you.
Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Megan Shea Pereira, who's a Ward 6 resident, couldn't attend tonight's meeting, but she wrote a letter in support of the circus and for this proposal. And on the suspension of the rules, I move to accept this late communication from Megan. So moved.
I believe that was already accepted, Councilor Charest.
Well, so moved again. Okay. Not to repeat, but a very thorough package received and a presentation. I thought it was great. A lot of residents came with questions I hadn't thought of, and I thought they were all answered to my satisfaction, as well as some of the other councilors. And my family attended the big Apple Circus probably about 15 years ago when it was in Boston at City Hall Plaza. It's an outstanding production, well run, and it is an amazing show. And the grounds around it were very clean. It was just, in addition to the show, it was just a great take in a major city. So, like most folks here tonight, let's give it a shot. We've got enough outs and mitigations, especially with the police being able to change tactics if they have to with regarding to traffic. I'm in full support of this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilor Gould.
I'm sorry. I just want to echo my sentiments, my fellow councilors, about Mark Whiting. Mark Whiting lives and breathes the North Shore Mall in the city of Peabody. He commutes every day, spends most of his life in Peabody, commutes from New Hampshire, and I just want to say anything Mark puts his stamp on, it is going to succeed, and he wouldn't put his neck out if he didn't feel comfortable about a program that he initiates. So thank you for what you do, Mark.
Attorney Angeles.
Mr. President, I'd just like to add a little small bit of information. One of the conditions that Councilor Charest has asked us to append to the special permit read the chief of police or his designee to determine the number of officers needed at all times for traffic and security. His designee is Deputy Chief Mark Cohen, who's here with us tonight. And I want to indicate to you that the circus has pledged to do whatever is necessary relative to security and to traffic pursuant to what the deputy, the chief, asks us to do. The same goes for the Board of Health, the same goes for fire. Whatever needs to be done, we're ready to do it. And as far as conditions are concerned, I think Councilor Charest will go. We'll repeat those, but we're prepared. Deputy Cohen, anything to say?
I'd just like to add that we've done many events at the mall. Personally, I've worked there since I was 15 years old. Myself and Officer Nelson have been involved with celebrities
sports figures, movie stars, music artists, Cabbage Patch doll releases, Nike shoe releases, where we have literally hundreds of people coming at us nonstop for hours. We've worked with Mark for 20 plus years. I did the 2001 Senior Open as a junior sergeant. There's been more planning for this event than we had for that. And we pulled it off. Even if you recall, we had a lightning storm on the last day. So we can plan all we want, but like Tom Brady, we're going to call some Omahas on the line. As the designee, any one of the council, any city official, any resident can contact myself or Captain Richards, because he's my designee for traffic. Been there, done that. We all know about traffic in the mall, and personally, I have a mother-in-law that lives on Mount Pleasant Drive, so I hear it from her through my wife. So I'm very well versed in the trials and tribulations of Hog Hill. So we'll get through it. We'll make it happen with minimum inconvenience to anyone, and we'll address anything that comes along. Thanks.
Thank you. If no other councilor has any questions, I just had one question for the police department for both Captain Richards and Deputy Cohen. The only thing that I didn't hear addressed is the an evacuation plan in the event of some type of emergency in that tent. And it just, the thought of 1,600, families, 1,600 kids and parents in that tent and something happening, whether it be with an animal, a fire, and I know you're not responsible for fire, regrettably the fire department's not here, but have you been able to look at that, or do you need to wait till the tents are actually up before you can come up with a good evacuation plan?
People may not be aware, because it goes back a long way. Peabody is the designated location for evacuation for the Seabrook power plant. So there's plans in effect already for people to come here, and the location is the mall. The mall stocks water, medical supplies for that event, and they keep it up to date. So, and we do have an outreach up there, and so we already have assets there. So I don't see anything that could happen that we couldn't deal with should it present itself. And I think that there are fire details there. So there'll be the police, the fire, the ambulance, the mall security, who we work with closely. They have a security manager. To answer your question, yeah, there are plans, and
thank you.
In further response, Mr. President, I think if you look at the packet that we submitted, you will see that there is an evacuation plan in that packet for the tent. There's also a plan that shows the location of fire extinguishers and other safety mechanicals, etc. And I think Angelina will tell you that, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I think she's going to tell you that her personnel are pretty well trained in that regard.
Big Apple Circus also has a written emergency evacuation plan, not only for the patrons that will be inside the show, but as far as all the performers and the animals as well. So through each stage of the evacuation process, we have thought through considerably. When we were in Sussex, we actually had to put our emergency evacuation plan into effect because we were running from tornadoes. So we were able to get all 100 of our personnel plus all of our animals safely into barns. Each one of my personnel is involved in one area in evacuation within the tent, and they are trained, and they do have a written plan that we will also submit if need be, or we can go over it with the fire department and the health department and with emergency personnel.
Thank you very much.
They didn't need me.
Councilor, I would like to move to end the public hearing.
All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. Councilor Charest.
Thank you, President. I'd like to move to approve special permit for the application of Big Top Works LLP 595 Madison Ave, New York, New York, for the special permit, a special event application seeking to use northeast area of the North Shore Mall property near the Prospect Street and Essex Lane, next to the East Boston Savings Bank for a performance and production space of Big Apple Circus scheduled to operate between March 29th to May 12th, 2019, with the typical circus food and beverages including and only beer and wine and not mixed drinks, at 210 Andover Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, according to the section 6.1, 6.12, and 15.7 Peabody zoning, with the conditions of the chief police and his designee to have final approval and say over all detail and public safety concerns, with the recommendations of Public Services, DPW, the Health Department, the recommendations of the Fire Department, and again of the Police Department. And I think that will cover all unless councilors are missing any. So move.
Roll call vote.
Councilors Mitsoulas.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Mr. President, on the motion.
On the motion, Councilor McGinn.
Thank you. Councilor Charis, through you to Councilor Charis, did that reference to the police department make specific reference to them covering all the costs? I didn't.
It did, but I will add that all costs that has occurred from this production be covered by Big Apple Circus.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Councilor Charis.
Any other questions on the motion? Roll call vote.
Councilors Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasla.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gravel.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Motion carries 11 to nothing.
Mr. President, 2-minute recess, please.
So moved. 2-minute recess. All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Glad you're all here. Thank you very much.
I'm waiting. I'll wait. Going to the doctor. I had a bad time. Actually, what time is that at? 7:30? Yeah. When's the new report? If I feel all right in the morning when I get I'll give it a try. Couldn't do it. Once I heard there was some yeah. Well, oh yeah, there is your brother. There's some breakfast there, yeah. No, I told my first Tuesday. You know why, Tom? Because everybody else knows that too. Exactly. So, Am I supposed to handle this guy's equipment now or what? What am I supposed to do? I think I'm supposed to. Where's Kurt Bellamy? He told me to bring this down, put it on his desk, or give it to him or something.
You want us to bring it down?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
We'll bring it down to our office.
You want one of us to take it to our office?
Yeah, because I don't know.
Yeah,
I think Kurt thought, no, it's the guy with the black hair. Peter? I never saw the guy. Yeah. That's his personal equipment.
All right, we'll take it down to our office.
Kurt had said to secure it somewhere. I don't care.
Yeah, we'll take it.
I guess all right.
I was very, very proud of you. Yes, you did. That guy, the whole place.
Well, I'll tell you this. If I wasn't as tall as now, I would have turned around and looked at it and said, listen, you're a roofer or a roofer, whatever you are. You know how many warrants and drug addicts that drag out of the food you ever lived on the house on the street? Don't talk about it. Generality.
That was awesome.
Councilors, if you could return to your seats, please. Thanks. We're going to move to item 5, reports on committees. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are 3 different reports of Industrial and Community Development Committee notes and motions that I have to discuss. First one was from January 31st. And in attendance for the committee was myself as chair, Councilor McGinn, Councilor Rossignol, Councilor Sasslaw, Councilor Sharris. Also in attendance, Councilor Mitsoulas, Melville, O'Neill, Manning Martin, Gravel, and Turco. Also appearing to speak was Mayor Betancourt. It was in discussion of a zoning map amendment. There was a number of discussions. This was in regards to parcels 136 and 137 as shown on Assessors Map 86, which refers to 26 Holly Street from a GBD to a BC. That was tabled, and as it turns out, it was continued to tonight and then continued again. So there was some motions that night. Councilor McGinn made a motion that the committee submit a negative recommendation to the full council concerning the proposed zoning map amendment for parcels 136 and 137 on Assessors Map number 26 Holly Street. And again, it was a negative recommendation, and that carried 5-0. Zoning map amendment to change an R2 to an R4 was tabled until there's a neighborhood meeting pulled together by Councilor Sharris. We're going to follow through on that after. And
Councilor Gould, could we take a vote on the motion by Councilor McGinn?
I'm sorry, you're right, we should have. Yes. Is that the right way to do it, Tim?
On the motion, Councilor McGinn?
Yeah, on the motion, I think that's been withdrawn, so it's kind of a mute point at this time. I mean, we could.
Okay, so we'll keep it as a report of progress rather than a motion.
Well, I think sorry, Mr. President, but if you want to close it out cleanly, then probably that's the proper thing to do. That's take the roll call.
Thank you, Councilor. That's what I was going to do. Can I get a motion? Okay, the motion on the floor. All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. So then we had a very in-depth discussion about the zoning language and map amendment for a residential overlay. Appearing to speak was Kurt Bellavance, Director of Community Development. Committee reviewed the proposed residential overlay zoning amendment and accompanying maps. Committee had objections to some parcels identified for a potential residential overlay. The committee did approve the concept of a residential overlay. Mr. Bellavance was asked to revise the proposed maps, and the following motions were approved in committee. Councilor Rossignol made a motion to recommend that the committee consider the concept of a residential overlay district. It carried 5-0. Do you want to vote on that?
Yes, on the motion. All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
There was also a motion by Councilor Rossignol to move to hold the residential overlay. Did you say something? I'm sorry. I thought you said something. I stopped. Okay. Councilor Rossignol moved to hold the residential overlay zoning amendment in committee and schedule another meeting for February 2nd, and to further recommend a request revised maps from community development as follows: to strike parcels 1 and 2 on the Route 1 North map and keep parcels 3 and 4 on the Route 1 South map for further review. To strike these parcels on the North Shore Mall map southeast of Orthopedic Drive and retain the rest of the mall property and other properties shown on Prospect Street for further review. That carried 5-0. Motion on that, please.
On the motion, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
Then there was proposed zoning amendment, art usage. Appearing to speak on the matter was Kurt Bellavance, Director, Community Development Planning. The matter was held on committee for further review. And then there was proposed zoning amendment, a studio, motion pictures, and television filming. Appearing to speak on the matter was Kurt Bellavance, Director, Community Development and Planning. proposed zoning language in section was amended to, as a matter of right by special permit, the following recommendation was approved to continue. Motion by Council McGinn, move to recommend to the City Council to amend Section 2 of the proposed zoning amendment for studio, motion picture, and television filming to change the word by right to special permit and to advance the language to the Planning Board in accordance with Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws. That carried 5-0. We'll take a vote on that, Mr. President.
On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
Then there was discussion about proposed zoning map and language amendment, Mill Overlay District. Appearing to speak also was Kurt Bellavance, Director of Community Development and Planning. Also appearing was Mr. Ed Greeley, owner of 58 Pulaski Street. Committee had a lengthy discussion regarding the concept of a Mill Overlay District in location of property at 58 Pulaski Street. Mr. Greeley addressed the committee and presented his future plans for the property. The committee did have reservations about the residential component contained in the amendment. The following recommendations were approved in committee. Councilor Rosenthal moved to recommend that the committee consider the concept of a mill overlay. Carried 5-0. Motion, Mr. President.
On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
Also, Councilor McGinn moved to recommend to the City Council to amend various sections in the proposed Mill Overlay District zoning amendment to strike the residential component in Section 6.13 A, E, and I, Section 6.13.4.1 A and B, and Section 6.13.4.2 A and B, and to advance the map change and language amendment to the Planning Board in accordance with Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws. That carried 5-0, Mr. President.
On the motion, Council McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. This matter is the subject of item 8R, so under suspension of the rules, I'd move to receive item 8R.
All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
And just one additional clarification before we advance this to the Planning Board would be that in 6.15 subsection C and subsection E, the first, there's a duplication of wording here. It says, subsection C just says promote more efficient use of land, semicolon, and that was just a Scribner error because E is the entire text, promote more efficient use of land while protecting and so forth. So the request is to include in the motion to, before it goes to the Planning Board, to strike 6.15 subsection C.
C, promote more efficient use of land. Is that the one, Counselor?
Correct. Then now go down to 6.15 subsection E, and do you see that that's the actual language there? Thank you.
Any comments on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. That was for January 31st. Then we met again on February 7th, 2019. Committee members in attendance was myself as chair, Councilor McGinn, Councilor Rosenthal, Councilor Sasslaw, and Councilor Sharris. Others in attendance were Councilors Melville, Councilor O'Neill, Councilor Manning Martin, Councilor Gravel, and Councilor Turco. The committee met to continue the discussion of the proposed residential overlay district zoning amendment and proposed zoning amendments for charitable retail use. Number one, residential overlay district. The committee reviewed the residential overlay district language and maps for the North Shore Mall, Prospect Street area, and Route 1. After a lengthy discussion, the following recommendations were approved in committee. Councilor Sasslaw moved to remove map 35, parcel 38X, which is 190 Newbury Street, from the residential overlay district. Carried 5-0.
On the motion?
So moved, excuse me.
All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
Also, Councilor Sasslaw moved to include map 35, parcel 38A, 190 rear, Newbury Street in map 47, parcel 18, 176 Newbury Street in the residential overlay district, and refer to the planning board in accordance with Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws, and that vote carried 5-0, Mr. President.
On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
Also, Councilor McGinn moved that the Community Development Department incorporate the various residential overlay district language changes as discussed tonight for consideration at the next committee meeting, which was tonight. That was passed unanimous. So moved, Mr. President.
On the motion, Councilor McGinn.
Right, so the intent of the motion was to move it out of committee, but that we were going to see that language at the next council meeting, so that we would address that as the full...
I'm going to address that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I heard that the motion was to send it to the planning board, so it's...
Let's see it here. I'll repeat the motion. Move that the Community Development Department incorporate the various residential overlay district language changes as discussed tonight for consideration at the next committee meeting, which is February 14th, 2019.
Right, tonight's February 14th,
Right.
so it's not going to happen tonight. We're going to get these changes at the next city council meeting.
Point of information,
Councilor Rosendahl.
I believe the one word missing is subcommittee, because that was from the 7th, moved to the subcommittee meeting prior to this meeting. So on the motion where it says committee, it should be subcommittee meeting.
Okay.
Also,
Tim.
point of information, I believe the changes that Councilor Gould is referencing in that are the changes that you made to Council McGinn, that you had made strike and add, not the languages that you mentioned tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. I apologize, Councilor Gould. I'm clear on that now. Thank you.
It's all right. Thank you.
On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
And we discussed charitable retail uses. Committee discussed the proposed zoning amendment for charitable retail uses in the IL zone. There was a recommendation by Councilor McGinn to amend the language, and the following recommendation was approved in committee. Councilor McGinn made a motion to amend Section 4.2 uses by adding the use charitable retail facilities of less than 12,000 square feet in size, where such charitable entity is a nonprofit organization with an IRS 501c3 designation and is engaged in the sale of general merchandise, furniture, household goods, dry goods, clothing, hardware, paint, household appliances, and/or books, and by adding the designation of SP in the IL zone in the column for charitable retail facilities of less than 12,000 square feet in size, where such charitable entity is a nonprofit organization with an IRS 501c3 designation and is engaged in the sale of general merchandise, furniture, household goods, dry goods, clothing, hardware, paint, household appliances, and/or books, and to refer to the planning board. That carried 5-0, Mr. President.
On the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
And then we met again tonight at 6 o'clock, and in attendance was myself as chairman, Councilor Sasslaw, Councilor McGinn, Councilor Rosendahl, and Councilor Sharis. And Mr. Bellavance pointed out that the number of changes that the council had requested were done, and there was a motion to move the residential overlay district out of committee with favorable recommendation based on most recent draft to be amended by Mr. Bellavance to address two areas raised tonight per 6.1.3 with favorable recommendation to the council. So moved, Mr. President.
On the motion, any in favor? All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
And that does it, Mr. President, on the industrial community development. Thank you to Tim and Allison for that thorough report out. I appreciate it. Seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Gould. Councilor Gravel.
Just thought I'd help you move it along.
Thank you, Mr. President. There was a meeting of the Finance Committee this evening
In attendance were myself as chair, Council Gould, Council Manning Martin, Council McGinn, and Council Rossignol. All of the councilors were available for the meeting, and there were 3 items on the agenda. The first item was the appropriations of a rideshare transportation enhancement trust fund in the amount of $17,734.60. And this was money that's received from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We weren't quite sure where the 20 cents was coming from, but we appreciate the money. And the money was being used to appropriate traffic control signs and the purchase of 4 fixed and 1 portable radar board. The request was made by the finance director and was approved unanimously. So it's to transfer, it's to use the rideshare transportation reimbursement trust fund to purchase the signs, 4 fixed signs, in the amount of $17,734.60, going to account number 25000035835. So moved.
On the motion, roll call vote.
Councilors Mitsoulas. Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gravel.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0, 1 absent.
Next up on the agenda was an issue with accepting MGL Chapter 32B, Section 20, Other Post-Employment Benefits Liability Trust Fund, the OPEB. And basically that involved a discussion about the use of funds to be able to set up a trust fund which would address issues associated with liabilities that the company will be encumbering. The request was made to consider to accept MGL Chapter 32B, Section 20, and establish an Other Post-Employment Benefits Liability Trust Fund, OPEB, for the deposit of gifts, grants, appropriations, and other funds for the benefit of retired employees, their dependents, and the payment of group health insurance benefits or reduction of Peabody's unfunded retirement liability. In accordance with this section of the MGL, the recommendation was to designate the city treasurer as trustee for the general supervision, management, and investment of the OPEB fund. So moved.
Roll call vote.
Councilors Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Gould. Gravel.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Another motion was made to fund the OPEB trust fund by by transferring funds from the Employer Health Trust, account number 500-32113 in the amount of $250,000 to OPEB Trust, account number 500-32153 in the same amount of $250,000. So moved.
Roll call vote.
Councilors Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gravel.
Yes.
Turco. Motion carries 10-0.
Lastly, there was a request to file statement of interest for the West and South Memorial School. The mayor presented us with, these are basically being funded to, or requests are being made to be considered on the Mass School Building Assistance Program for reimbursement. This is something that we tend to do every year. It basically is to put us on a list, and hopefully we're chosen as a priority. I hate to say it, but I have to read these motions, so if you could just bear with me. I know it's late. I'll go as fast as I can. So the motion is having convened in an open meeting on February 14th, 2019, prior to the closing date, the school committee of the City of Peabody, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinance, or actually the City Council, in accordance with its charters, bylaws, and ordinance, has voted to authorize the mayor and superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the Statement of Interest, SOI, form dated, again, it will be dated February 14, 2019, for the South Memorial School located at 16 Maple Street Extension, Peabody, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority category for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The MSBA priority selected is the Accelerated Repair Program for the repair and/or replacement of the roofs. The specific objective of the statement of interest is to partner with the MSBA for the replacement of the failing roof on the entire facility of the South Memorial Elementary School as articulated in the South Memorial Elementary School SOI. And the City Council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment which the Massachusetts School Building Authority or commits the city, town, regional school district to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So moved.
Roll call vote.
Councilors Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rosignol.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gravel.
Yes.
Turco. Motion carries 10 to nothing.
And if that wasn't fun enough, we get to do it again. Here we go. So, having convened an open meeting on February 14th, 2019, prior to the closing date, the City Council of the City of Peabody, in accordance with its charters, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent and mayor to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the Statement of Interest, SOI form dated February 14th, 2019, for the West Memorial Elementary School, located at 15 Bow Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority category for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. The MSBA priority selected is the Accelerated Repair Program for the repair and/or replacement of roofs. The specific objective of this statement of interest is to partner with the MSBA for the replacement of the failing roof of the entire facility of the West Memorial School as articulated in the West Memorial Elementary School SOI, and the City Council hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance of or the approval of the application, the awarding or grant of any funding thereof, commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the city, town, regional school district to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So moved.
Roll call vote.
Councilors Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Rosignol.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gravel.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Motion carries 10 to nothing.
I'm done.
Motions, orders, and resolutions, and I'll remind councilors, we have 21 minutes till 11 o'clock, and if we can move it along. Council Mitsoulas.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under suspension of the rules, I'd like to go to item 8I, motion to receive and set up a public hearing.
All in favor, any opposed to vote?
Also, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go to item 8O, and this is motion to receive, and I'll say refer it back to the Motor Vehicle License Committee. So moved.
All in favor, any opposed to
Mr.
vote?
On the motion,
Well, on the motion,
thank you. Yeah, that affects both our wards. And I think the specific request there was to take action tonight to revert both of those licenses back to the city. So I'd like to make if we could make that as a co-motion, Councilor Mitsoulas, for both the Class 2 motor vehicle license, Auto Clinic 3, Bernie Street, and the Class 3 motor vehicle license, Pioneer Garage, 77 Walnut Street, and to revert those two licenses. And again, on the motion, there's been, as you'll see in your package, there was a lot of communication already with the licensees. In one case, that they've indicated they don't want it anymore, and the other one, they've not been able to find anybody, and they've been non-responsive, so I think it's time to close this one out. Thank you, Council.
Yeah, thank you. I discussed that with Tim, and Tim said to refer it back to,
No, I think you misunderstood, Council. I meant that we should take action tonight. and
well,
take
then
the
I must have
licenses back.
misunderstood.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, that's fine. Okay. Thank you, Council.
Should we need to vote on that?
So, on council, can we call it a co-motion between you and Council
Right.
McGinn?
Yep.
On the motion, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also, I'd like to go to item 9, C, D, and E, and I'd like to receive and set up a public hearing for all of them. So moved.
On the motion, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
That's it. Thank you.
Council Melville.
No motions this evening, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. President. No motions tonight.
Council McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8C and approve the 2 City Council appointees to the Community Development Authority. So moved.
On the motion, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8G and set up a public hearing. So moved.
All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
Under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8M.
All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
Bear with me, Mr. President. So 8M is a communication from the Peabody Police Department prepared in cooperation with the Fire Department and DPS regarding the situation on Shaw's Lane. Councilors may recall that the City Council requested this information on October 25th, 2018. Prior to that, and since June 2018, I should say from June 2018 through now, temporary measures have been in place to provide for access by emergency vehicles. In late 2019, it was determined that there was an existing ordinance prohibiting parking on one side of Fountain Street since 1960. Although this ordinance had not seen any recent enforcement, signs went up, which resulted in significant feedback from residents on Fountain Street. The police department recommendation, while still limiting Fountain Street parking, to some extent provides for significantly more parking on Fountain Street than did the 1960 ordinance. As this was a matter of public safety, the mayor's office has been very engaged on this issue. A letter went out from the mayor to the residents of Shaw's Lane, Fountain Street, and potentially impacted residents on Holton Street, Pleasant Street, and Pierpont Street. Under suspension of the rules, I would move to receive that letter from His Honor the Mayor dated January 28th, 2019 as a late communication. So moved.
All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
As a result of that letter from the mayor and based on other communications with area residents in the affected area, they are all aware of the changes that are coming. Captain Richards is also here tonight. Should you have any further questions on what was communicated in that memorandum from the police department. As this is a matter of public safety, I'd like to advance this ordinance change tonight under an emergency preamble. That would require a vote on the emergency preamble.
On the preamble, roll call vote.
Councilors Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Sasla,
Yes.
Sharp.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Gravel.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0 on the preamble.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, based on the approval of the emergency preamble, I would move that ordinances be changed as follows. Section 19-141, one-way streets enumerated by adding the following public way vehicular traffic shall move only in the direction upon the streets or parts of streets indicated below. Shaw's Lane northerly from Fountain Street to Holton Street, and Fountain Street easterly from Pleasant Street to Pierpont Street. And Section 2, entitled Parking to be amended as followed. Section 19-94, parking prohibited on certain streets. Parking is hereby prohibited on the following streets or highways or parts thereof, except as may be otherwise permitted by this article, by deleting in its entirety the following existing language: Fountain Street southerly side and Holton Street northerly side, and inserting in place thereof the following: Fountain Street southerly side from the westerly property line of 6 Fountain Street to the easterly property line of 4 Fountain Street. Holton Street northerly side from the westerly property line of 33 Holton Street to the easterly property line of 29 Holton Street. Holton Street southerly side and Shaw's Lane westerly side from Fountain Street to Holton Street. So moved.
Roll call vote.
Councilors Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Sasala,
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Gravel,
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0, 2 absent.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, I think we missed item 8S. That was already dealt with in the Councilor Gould's report of Committee for Industrial and Community Development. So moved.
All in favor, any opposed, it's a vote.
Mr. President, if I may, just, Captain Richards, thank you very much for being here for this hold. You're wonderful on the circus, and you helped Councilman McGinn. Just want to acknowledge. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
And also similarly, under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8T, which was dealt with previously this evening, Industrial and Community Development. So moved.
All in favor, any opposed, it's a vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8D. So moved.
All in favor, any opposed, it's a vote.
On that motion, could we refer that to executive session so we get an update?
Councilman McGinn, could we amend that motion to receive and refer to executive session?
Yes.
On the motion, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. And move to remove a handicap parking spot by advertising an amendment and amending Section 19-81 of the ordinance of the City of Peabody to remove Sanborn Street in front and along of the property of 10 Sanborn Street. So moved.
All in favor, any opposed, it's a vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions.
Council Rozignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules, I'd like to receive item 8B, communication from Conservation Commission.
All in favor, any opposed, it's a vote.
And I'd like to receive item 7C, considering we've just voted on it.
All in favor, any opposed, it's a vote.
No further motions.
Council Sasslaw.
Thank you, Council President. On suspension of rules, motion to receive item 8A and transfer all papers being in order.
All in favor, any opposed, a vote.
I'd like to receive item 8K and 8N and receive and move them to Industrial and Community Development Committee.
I believe those are all set. Yeah, those have already been referred.
Okay, and
Okay, I'm being told they're not. I haven't crossed off for some reason, but on the motion, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote.
and item 9B, set up a public hearing.
On the motion, all in favor, any opposed, it's a vote. Council Charest, 9 minutes.
9 minutes, I'll go as quick as I can. Under suspension of rules, accept 8H and set up a meeting hearing.
All in favor? Any opposed to vote?
In this point of information, the owners of 15 King Street is ready to have a neighborhood meeting and setting it up with the mayor's office, just because of school vacation is making it a little later than we like, but in the next couple of weeks, we'll have a neighborhood meeting for everyone to attend. Next, I would like to say prayers out from the council to the Melville family for their recent loss, and our prayers to you. And then to the rest of fellow councilors and clerk's office, to their spouses, thank you very much for allowing them to be here on this very special day. And to my wife, Nancy, happy Valentine's. I love you. Thank you.
Councilor Gould.
I can't top that, so I won't. I just want to also, Councilor Charest stole my thunder. Respects to your grandfather, and he will be missed. And under suspension of the rules, move to approve item 9A, all papers being in order.
All in favor? Any opposed to vote?
No further motions, Mr. President.
Councilor Gravel.
Thank you, Council President. My condolences as well, Ryan. And under suspension of rules, I'd like to receive and forward to the Finance Committee items 7A, B, D, and E. So moved.
All in favor? Any opposed? It's a vote.
No further.
Councilor Gravel, could you get item 8F and 8L for me?
It would be my absolute pleasure. I'd like to receive item 8F. And
Mr. President, on the motion to receive, could I add to that motion through you to Councilor Gravel that we ask Community Development to confirm that the properties, the PBD properties listed are included on the subsidized housing inventory?
if you don't mind.
On the motion, all in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. And 8L.
8L, move to receive.
All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote. We have items 9F, G remaining.
9F, entertainment license, 2019 renewal. Outback Steakhouse, 300 Andover Street, Portuguese American War Vets, 103 Tremont Street, Suchangs, 373 Lowell Street. Move to receive and approve, subject to all papers being in order.
All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
Item 9G, taxi limousine driver license. Paul Doucette Jr., license 55. Matthew Frederick, license 56. Andrew Davis, license 57. Move to receive and approve, subject to all papers being in order.
All in favor, any opposed? It's a vote.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. All in favor, any opposed?